The city lights glittered below, a sprawling, silent galaxy of human ambition. From his apartment on the 35th floor, a man we will call John could see it all. The streaks of headlights, the illuminated towers, the constant, restless energy of a world that never slept. His own space was a testament to modern success. Clean lines, minimalist furniture, the latest technology sitting sleek and silent on polished surfaces. His online profiles told a story of achievement, of exotic travel, of sophisticated dinners and professional milestones. He had climbed the ladder, he had acquired the things, he had curated the life he was told would lead to happiness. He had done everything he was supposed to do. He had won the game. And yet, in the quiet moments, when the hustle of the day faded, a single, persistent question echoed in the stillness of his mind. Is this all there is? What comes next? This feeling, this hollow ache in the center of a life full of things, is a quiet epidemic of our time. We can call it the endless thirst. We are born into a culture of perpetual wanting, a world that masterfully convinces us that peace is just one more purchase away, that fulfillment lies just over the horizon of the next promotion, the next relationship, the next destination. We are told to hustle, to grind, to achieve, and we run tirelessly on a hamster wheel, chasing a horizon of happiness that always seems to recede as we approach it. This pursuit, this constant striving for more, does not lead to contentment. It leads to a unique form of modern suffering, a quiet anxiety, a subtle but pervasive feeling of being fundamentally lacking, of never being quite enough, of never having quite enough. It is the exhaustion of a soul that has been running on empty, fueled only by the promise of a future that never truly arrives. But what if the cure for this thirst isn't to drink more from the same well? What if the answer isn't about adding something new to our lives, but about learning to see what is already there with new eyes? There is an ancient path, a wisdom tested by time, that offers a different way. It suggests that true, unshakable prosperity is not something to be acquired, but something to be uncovered. It proposes that the greatest wealth is not held in our hands, but in our awareness. This path begins with a single, transformative step, a practice so simple it is often overlooked, yet so profound it can change the very fabric of our reality. It begins with gratitude, not the polite, fleeting thank you, not a transaction with the universe to get more things, but a deep, sustained, and radical shift in perception. It is the discovery of a key that can unlock the door to the vast treasure house that already exists within you, right here, right now. This is the journey to that discovery. To understand the path toward true prosperity, we must first diagnose the illness that keeps us from it. We must look directly at the feeling we met in John, that quiet, persistent ache of not enough. This feeling is the ghost in the machine of modern life, the background hum of dissatisfaction that runs beneath even our greatest achievements. It is the engine that drives so much of our world, yet it so often leaves the driver feeling empty and exhausted. It is a fundamental restlessness. The ancient teachers of the East had a profound understanding of this condition. The Buddha, looking deeply into the nature of human experience over 2.5 millennia ago, gave this state a name. He called it tanha. The word is often translated from the original Pali language as craving or desire, but its essence is more primal, more visceral. The most accurate translation is simply thirst. It's a perfect metaphor. Think of the desperation of true thirst, the way it consumes all of your attention, the way it makes it impossible to focus on anything else. It is a raw, urgent, demanding feeling. This is the nature of tanha. It is the deep, internal thirst that drives us to constantly seek something outside of ourselves to make us feel whole, to quench the burning feeling of lack. The Buddha identified 3 distinct types of this thirst, and when we look at them, we can see our own modern lives reflected with startling clarity. The first, and most obvious, is the thirst for sense pleasures. This is the craving for things that delight our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. In our world, this thirst is the very fuel of consumer culture. It is the obsessive desire for the new phone with the better camera, the designer clothes that promise a new identity, the gourmet meal that fills our social media feed, the next vacation to an exotic paradise. It is the thirst for pleasant sounds, for praise, for validation, for the fleeting high of a like or a share. This form of tanha whispers to us that if we could just arrange our external world perfectly, surrounding ourselves with enough beautiful, pleasant, and stimulating experiences, then the inner feeling of emptiness would finally vanish. But it is a promise that can never be kept. The pleasure of a new purchase fades. The taste of a fine meal is gone in moments. The vacation ends, and the thirst, once momentarily slaked, returns. The second form of thirst is more subtle and perhaps even more powerful. It is the thirst for becoming, or the thirst for existence. This is not just the desire to have things, but the desire to be something. It is the ego's insatiable hunger for a stronger, more permanent, more impressive identity. It is the craving to be more successful, more famous, more respected, more intelligent, more spiritual, or even more healed. It is the engine behind relentless ambition, the drive that makes us compare our life to the curated highlight reels of others and feel that we are falling short. This thirst tells us, you are not enough as you are. You must become more. It fuels the fear of being ordinary, the anxiety of not leaving a mark on the world. It pushes us to construct an elaborate identity, a story about ourselves that we present to the world, and we live in constant fear of that story being challenged. We become addicted to the idea of progress, to the feeling of moving forward, because we are terrified of the stillness where we might have to face the person we are, right now, without any embellishments. The third type of thirst is the thirst for non-existence or annihilation. This sounds extreme, but it is a profoundly common experience. This is the craving to escape, to numb out, to not feel. When life becomes painful, stressful, or simply boring, this thirst arises. It is the desperate reach for the remote control to binge-watch a series for hours. The urge to scroll endlessly through a social media feed to distract the mind, the reliance on a drink or a drug to blunt the sharp edges of reality. It is the desire to make the difficult feelings go away. In its most subtle form, it is the simple wish for a moment of oblivion, a break from the relentless chatter of our own minds. This thirst for non-existence is a direct reaction to the pain caused by the other two thirsts. When the chase for pleasure and the pressure of becoming are too exhausting, the desire to simply check out takes over. It is a deep-seated aversion to the present moment, when the present moment is uncomfortable. These three thirsts work together, creating a cage of dissatisfaction. And our modern society has become a master architect in reinforcing the bars of this cage. Every advertisement you see is a finely crafted tool designed to generate tanha. It does not sell you a product. It sells you an escape from a feeling of lack that it has just created in you. You are not just buying a car. You are buying freedom and admiration. You are not just buying a cosmetic. You are buying youth and social acceptance. Social media platforms are vast, digital ecosystems for the cultivation of the thirst for becoming. They are stages where we are all implicitly encouraged to perform our ideal selves while consuming the ideal performances of others, creating a constant, low-grade fever of comparison, envy, and inadequacy. The world we have built is a symphony of triggers for our own inner thirst. This brings us to the great parable of the thirsty man and the salt water. A man is lost in a boat at sea, dying of thirst. In his desperation, he cups his hands and begins to drink the ocean water. For a brief, fleeting moment, the coolness in his mouth feels like relief. It feels like he is solving the problem, but the salt in the water only dehydrates him further. The more he drinks, the more intensely he craves. His solution is actually the cause of his ever-increasing suffering. This is a perfect illustration of the loop of tanha. A feeling of lack arises within us. We identify an external thing, a product, a promotion, a person's approval that we believe will quench it. We drink the salt water. We get a moment of relief. But the fundamental condition has not been addressed. The pleasure is temporary, the object loses its shine, and the underlying thirst returns, often stronger and more demanding than before. We are caught on a treadmill, running faster and faster, but never truly arriving anywhere. It is crucial to understand that desire itself is not the enemy. The simple wish for food when you are hungry is natural. The desire for safety and shelter is healthy. This is different from the feverish, clinging quality of tanha. The difference lies in the obsession, the delusion that our inner peace is held hostage by something outside of ourselves. Healthy desire is a gentle guide. Tanha is a tyrannical master. This thirst, in its three forms, is the true source of our deep restlessness. It is the engine of dissatisfaction. Recognizing this is the first, most courageous step on any authentic spiritual path. It is not a step of judgment, but of clear-eyed, compassionate awareness. We are not broken or flawed for feeling this thirst. We are human, and this is part of the human condition. But by seeing the mechanism clearly, by understanding the nature of the salt water we have been drinking, we can finally begin to ask the most important question of all: where can we find the cool, fresh water that will truly, lastingly quench our thirst? Having seen the relentless nature of our inner thirst, the question that naturally follows is, where do we find the water that can truly quench it? We have been told our entire lives to look for it in the world outside ourselves. We are taught to dig wells of achievement, to build reservoirs of material possessions, and to seek out the rivers of sensory pleasure. We have tried this. We have drunk from these sources, and we have found, like the man drinking salt water, that they only make our thirst more intense. The deep, frustrating secret of our modern lives is that we have been looking for water in a desert. The fresh, cool spring we so desperately seek does not lie in the external world of getting and spending. It lies within. To find it, we must first embark on a radical reevaluation of what it is we are actually looking for. We must redefine our idea of prosperity. For most of us, the word prosperity is immediately and inextricably linked with the word wealth. It conjures images of overflowing bank accounts, a rising stock portfolio, a large home, a luxury car. We measure prosperity in numbers, in square feet, in horsepower. These are the metrics of the world, the scoreboard by which the game of success is judged. Yet these are merely external symbols, hollow markers that have no inherent connection to a state of well-being. We have confused the map for the territory, the menu for the meal. True prosperity is not a number in an account. It is a quality of being. It is not an external circumstance. It is an internal state. It is the wealth of the soul. Imagine this inner wealth. It is the feeling of waking up in the morning, free from the gnawing anxiety of what you must achieve that day. It is a quiet sense of ease in your own skin, a feeling of being at home in your own mind. It is a deep, abiding contentment that is not dependent on whether things are going your way. It is the spaciousness that allows you to experience joy without desperately clinging to it, and to feel sorrow without being shattered by it. It is the resilience to navigate life's inevitable storms with a sense of inner balance. This is true prosperity. It is a richness of spirit, a state of profound inner peace and sufficiency. The person who possesses this inner wealth can be living in a small apartment with a modest income and be infinitely more prosperous than a billionaire who lives in a state of constant worry, craving, and mental agitation. There is a timeless story that illustrates this distinction perfectly. It tells of a great king who ruled over a vast and wealthy kingdom. He lived in a magnificent palace of marble and gold, slept on silks, and ate the most exquisite foods from every corner of his empire. He had armies to protect him and servants to attend to his every whim. By every external measure, he was the most prosperous man alive. Yet, the king's mind was a battlefield. He was plagued by insomnia, worrying about rival kingdoms, potential betrayals within his court, and the security of his immense treasury. His brow was permanently furrowed with anxiety. His wealth was a golden cage, and he, its restless prisoner. One afternoon, walking by the river that flowed past his palace, the king saw a hermit sitting peacefully under a large banyan tree. The hermit wore nothing but a simple, patched robe. Beside him was his only possession, a wooden begging bowl. He was doing nothing, merely watching the gentle flow of the river, a soft, serene smile on his face. The king, irritated by this display of utter idleness and contentment, approached him. "You, old man," the king commanded, "what do you own?" The hermit looked up, his eyes clear and calm. "Your Majesty," he replied gently, "I own the warmth of the sun on my skin, the cool breeze that carries the scent of the earth, the endless song of this river, and the unshakable peace in my own heart." The king scoffed. "That is nothing. I can give you real wealth. I will give you a room in my palace, fine clothes, and all the food you can eat. You will be a rich man." The hermit smiled his gentle smile once more. "Thank you for your generous offer, Your Majesty, but I must decline. I cannot accept a lesser treasure in exchange for a greater one. Why would I trade my contentment for your worries?" The king was stunned into silence. He looked at the hermit's peaceful face and then thought of his own troubled mind. He looked at the hermit's simple robe and then at his own heavy, jewel-encrusted garments, which felt more like armor than clothing. In that moment, the king understood. The man who owned nothing was, in fact, the one who possessed everything of value. The king who owned everything was a pauper in the currency of the soul. He gave a slight bow to the hermit and walked back to his palace, the weight of his crown feeling heavier than ever before. This story is not just a fable. It is a deep truth reflected in our world today. We see it in the lives of lottery winners who report being more miserable after their windfall, their relationships shattered by greed and suspicion. We see it in the struggles of celebrities who have fame and fortune beyond measure, yet fall into the depths of addiction and depression. These are not failures of wealth. They are proof that external wealth is not, and has never been, the source of happiness. The relentless pursuit of material prosperity often comes at a terrible cost. It demands the sacrifice of the very things that constitute inner prosperity: time with loved ones, connection to nature, stillness, and the simple joy of being. The pressure to acquire, maintain, and protect external wealth becomes a new form of servitude. The profound, liberating truth is this: true prosperity is not an accumulation of things, but a subtraction of wants. It is the state you arrive at, not when you have everything you could possibly want, but when you no longer need anything more to feel complete. It is the wealth of a quiet mind. It is the richness of an open heart. This is the best news imaginable. It means that prosperity is not a limited resource, available only to a lucky, privileged few. It cannot be dictated by the economy, the stock market, or the circumstances of your birth. It is a universal potential. It is a seed that exists within every single one of us, waiting to be cultivated. Its source is not out there in the world of things. It is right here, inside you. So, if this inner wealth is our true goal, if this peaceful contentment is the destination we seek, how do we begin the journey? What is the first step on the path away from the salt water of thirst and toward the fresh spring of the soul? We need a tool, a practice, a way of seeing that can begin to shift our focus from what is missing to what is present. We need a key to open the door to this inner palace. That key has a name. It is gratitude. We have arrived at the threshold, having identified the inner thirst that drives our dissatisfaction and having redefined our destination as a state of inner prosperity. We stand before a locked door, and we have been told that the key has a name. That key is gratitude. But as we take this key in hand, we must be very careful. The word gratitude is used so often in our modern culture that its true meaning, its profound, transformative power, has become diluted. The gratitude we will speak of here is not the polite, automated thank you that we learn as children. It is not a fleeting positive thought. It is something far more radical, a fundamental reorientation of the human heart and mind. Before we can use this key, we must first wipe away the smudges of misunderstanding that currently coat it. In recent years, a particular version of gratitude has been popularized, one that is deeply enmeshed with the idea of manifestation, or the law of attraction. In this view, gratitude is treated as a transactional tool, a form of currency for the cosmos. The logic goes something like this. If I perform the act of being grateful for the car I have, the universe will reward me with a better one. If I express gratitude for the money in my bank account, more money will flow to me. Gratitude becomes a means to an end, a strategy for getting more things. It is a spiritualized form of wanting. While perhaps well-intentioned, this approach is a subtle but significant trap. It is the old thirst, the tanha we have just examined, dressing itself up in new, more enlightened clothing. The focus is still on what is missing. The primary motivation is still to acquire, to gain, to become. The feeling of gratitude is conditional, offered up in the hope of a future reward. This transactional gratitude does not liberate us from the cycle of wanting. It just refines our technique for participating in it. It keeps us focused on the future, on a moment when our circumstances will finally be perfect, and then we will be happy. And it inevitably leads to disappointment. When we are grateful and the promotion doesn't come, when we give thanks and the relationship doesn't improve, the practice feels hollow, like a failed magic trick. We conclude that it doesn't work, and we abandon it, remaining trapped in the belief that our peace is dependent on things outside of our control. Authentic gratitude. The gratitude that is spoken of in the great wisdom traditions is something else entirely. It is not a means to an end. It is, in itself, the end. The feeling of appreciation is the reward. It is not a tool to change our circumstances, but a lens that changes how we see our circumstances. It is a profound and conscious shift of attention. Most of our lives, our minds operate like a spotlight in a dark room, fixating on the one thing that is wrong, the unpaid bill, the critical comment, the physical pain, the crack in the wall. We zoom in on the flaw until it fills our entire field of vision, and we believe the whole room is flawed. Authentic gratitude is the practice of consciously choosing to widen the beam of that spotlight. It is the decision to pan across the room and acknowledge, with intention, the sturdy floor beneath our feet, the solid roof over our head, the air we are breathing, the simple fact of the light that allows us to see the crack in the first place. The crack doesn't disappear, the problem doesn't vanish, but its context changes. It is seen for what it is. One small part of a much larger, more complex, and often beautiful reality. This kind of gratitude is unconditional. It is the ability to find a source of appreciation regardless of the external weather of our lives. It is not about pretending that everything is wonderful when it is not. It is about holding the truth of our difficulties while also holding the truth of our blessings simultaneously. It is a state of being, a way of inhabiting the world that is rooted in the present moment, not in a wished-for future. There is a story that beautifully illustrates the heart of this selfless appreciation. The Buddha was walking through a village, and many people came to make offerings. A great king approached, followed by his retinue, and laid down gifts of incredible value, chests of gold coins, bolts of the finest silk, rare and exotic perfumes. He did so with an air of pride, conscious of his own generosity and the impression he was making. Others followed, wealthy merchants and landowners, each trying to outdo the last with their lavish gifts. Their giving was a form of transaction, an investment in good merit or public esteem. Then, through the crowd, an old woman made her way forward. She was destitute, dressed in rags, and possessed nothing in the world. On her journey to see the Buddha, she had seen a single, common wildflower growing by the side of the path. its simple beauty had moved her heart. She picked it, and now, with trembling hands and a heart overflowing with genuine reverence, she offered this one simple flower. It was all she had to give. The Buddha accepted her humble offering with a quiet grace and a deep look of appreciation. He held the small flower as if it were the most precious jewel in the world. Later, his attendant asked him why he seemed to value the simple flower as much as the king's treasure. The Buddha explained that the king and the merchants had given from their abundance a small fraction of what they owned, their minds perhaps clouded with pride and expectation. The old woman, however, had given from a place of pure heart. She offered everything she had, not to get something in return, but as a pure expression of love and appreciation. Her gift, though materially worthless, was spiritually priceless. This is the essence of true gratitude. Its value is not measured by the object of our appreciation, but by the quality of mind with which we appreciate. A moment of pure, heartfelt thanks for a simple glass of water is more powerful and transformative than a distracted, mechanical thank you for a winning lottery ticket. One is a state of being, the other is a reaction to an event. This gratitude is a quiet revolution we can enact within our own minds at any moment. It is a declaration of independence from the tyranny of more. It is the brave and radical act of saying, "My inner peace will not be held hostage. My contentment will not be postponed. I will not wait for the world to be perfect before I allow myself to see the beauty that is already here." This practice does not promise a life free from pain or difficulty. The storms of life will still come. The bills will still need to be paid. Loss and disappointment are inescapable parts of the human journey. What gratitude provides is an anchor. It builds an inner sanctuary, a reservoir of peace and resilience that we can return to again and again. When we are tossed by the waves of anger, fear, or despair, we can remember the feeling of the solid ground of gratitude beneath our feet. We become less fragile, less easily thrown off balance, because we are no longer deriving our sense of well-being from the ever-shifting conditions of the external world. We have found a source within. So, let us be clear. Gratitude is not a magic trick. It is not a cosmic ordering system. It is a door. It is a door that we ourselves keep shut. A door that leads out of the cramped, dark prison of our wanting mind and into the vast, luminous landscape of the present moment. It is the key that allows us to stop searching for treasures in the distant future and to finally open our eyes to the untold riches that lay at our feet all along. We now understand what this key is and why it is so powerful. The next, most crucial step is to learn how to use it. How do we begin to cultivate this state of being in our own lives, not as an idea, but as a lived reality? The practice begins with the simplest, most intimate, and most overlooked gift we possess. We have spoken of gratitude as a key, a door, a state of being. This can all feel very abstract, very grand. The mind, accustomed to complexity, asks, where do I start? How do I begin to practice this, especially on a day when my heart feels heavy, when the world feels gray, and I can think of nothing to be thankful for? The path to cultivating a grateful heart does not begin with a grand gesture or a monumental effort. It begins with the most intimate, most humble, and most profoundly overlooked miracle of our existence. It begins with the simple act of returning our awareness to the breath. For most of us, most of the time, the breath is simply there, a silent, automatic function of the body, as unnoticed as the space in a room. It is the soundtrack of our life, playing constantly in the background, but we have tuned it out. We only tend to notice it when it is gone in a moment of panic, when we are submerged in water, or when we are struggling for air. Yet, this constant, rhythmic exchange is the very foundation of our life. It is the first gift we receive upon entering this world, and the last one we will release. Every moment in between, it is our unwavering companion. Consider just for a moment the sheer wonder of it. Without any conscious thought or effort from you, A process of incredible generosity is unfolding. Air enters your body. It is drawn deep into your lungs, into a delicate, branching forest of tissue. There, at a microscopic level, a magical exchange takes place. The oxygen, the very essence of the air's vitality, is offered up to your blood. It is then carried to every single one of the trillions of cells that make up your body, to the neurons firing in your brain, to the muscles that allow you to move, to the heart that beats tirelessly in your chest. In return, your cells offer up what they no longer need, the carbon dioxide, the waste product of their labor. The breath accepts this, carrying it back out of your body, releasing it into the world to be transformed once more. This is not just a mechanical process. It is a perfect, continuous dance of receiving and letting go. It is the universe breathing you. You are not doing the breathing. You are being breathed by life itself. To feel gratitude for the breath, then, is the most fundamental place to start, because it requires nothing outside of you. You don't need a beautiful sunset, a kind word from a friend, or a healthy bank account. All you need is the simple fact of your own aliveness in this moment. To connect with this, let us try a simple exercise. You don't need to sit in a special posture or be in a silent room, though it can help. You can do this right now, wherever you are. Simply close your eyes or lower your gaze, and for a moment, just bring your attention to the fact that you are breathing. Don't try to change your breath in any way. Don't try to make it deeper or slower. Just let it be exactly as it is. Your only task is to be a gentle, curious observer. Feel the sensation of the air as it enters your nostrils. Is it cool? Is it warm? Follow its path as it travels down your throat and into your chest. Feel the gentle expansion of your ribcage, the subtle rise of your abdomen. There is no need to strain. Just rest your awareness on these simple, physical sensations. Then, notice the slight pause after the in-breath, before the out-breath begins. And as you breathe out, feel the gentle release, the letting go. Feel your body soften. Follow the out-breath all the way to its end, and then wait, without anticipation, for the next in-breath to arise, all on its own. It always does. It is a gift, given freely, again and again. Now, let's gently introduce the element of gratitude. As you breathe in, you can silently say to yourself, I am receiving the gift of life. And as you breathe out, you can feel a sense of thank you. Breathe in the nourishment of this present moment. Breathe out any tension you might be holding. The mind will wander. This is absolutely certain. It will drift off into plans for the future, memories of the past, worries and judgments. This is not a failure. It is simply what minds do. The practice is not about forcing the mind to be silent. The practice is in the gentle, compassionate return. Each time you notice your mind has wandered, you have a beautiful opportunity. Without any self-criticism, you simply guide your attention back to the feeling of the in-breath, back to the feeling of the out-breath. Each return is a small victory of awareness and kindness. This practice is powerful because it anchors you directly in the present moment. The great source of our tanha, our inner thirst, is our mind's tendency to live anywhere but here. We are lost in regret about the past or consumed by anxiety about the future. But the breath cannot exist in the past or the future. It is happening only now. To be aware of your breath is to be aware of the present. And to be grateful for your breath is to be grateful for the only moment you ever truly have to live, this one. You are tethering yourself to reality, pulling yourself out of the frantic fantasies of the mind and into the quiet truth of your own body. This has a profound effect on our nervous system. When we are stressed, anxious, or fearful, our sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight response is activated. Our heart rate increases, our muscles tense, and our breathing becomes shallow and rapid. By consciously bringing a gentle, appreciative awareness to our breath, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system or rest and digest response. The simple act of noticing and accepting our breath sends a powerful signal to our entire body that we are safe. The heart rate begins to slow. The muscles begin to release their grip. A wave of calm can begin to spread through our entire being. It is a direct antidote to the chronic stress that plagues so many of us. A student once asked a great Zen master, "What is the secret of enlightenment?" The student expected a long, complex, philosophical answer. The master simply replied, "When I breathe in, I know that I am breathing in. When I breathe out, I know that I am breathing out. That is all." The secret is not found in some distant, lofty state. It is found in the simple, intimate, and grateful awareness of the life that is flowing through you in this very moment. Gratitude for the breath is the foundation. It is the homecoming. Before we try to be grateful for anything else in the world, we can practice being grateful for the very process that sustains us. It costs nothing. It requires no special equipment. It is available to you 24 hours a day, wherever you are. It is the most reliable source of peace you will ever find. By returning to it, again and again, you begin to build a new habit, to carve a new pathway in your mind. You are teaching yourself, at the most fundamental level, that you already have a reason to be thankful. You have this breath, you have this moment. And from this simple, solid foundation, from this place of inner connection, we can now begin to slowly, gently open our awareness to the world around us. Having anchored ourselves in the quiet, rhythmic gift of the breath, we have found a place of inner stability. From this calm center, we can now begin to gently open the aperture of our awareness. We can let the world in. For most of our lives, we have been profoundly disconnected from the world we inhabit, even as we move through it. We live inside our minds, lost in a constant stream of thoughts, plans, worries, and memories. Our body is treated as little more than a vehicle to carry our head from one task to the next. The world around us becomes a blurred backdrop, a series of obstacles and utilities. The senses, our 5 sacred gateways to reality, become mere data collectors for the intellect. We look, but we do not truly see. We hear, but we do not listen. We touch, but we do not feel. This is not a personal failing. It is a condition of our time, a kind of sensory anesthesia brought on by the sheer velocity and volume of modern life. We are so bombarded by information, by notifications, by advertisements, by the relentless demand for our attention, that our brains, in an act of self-preservation, learn to numb out. We build a protective shield to avoid being overwhelmed, but this shield also blocks out the simple beauty and wonder of the world. We become so goal-oriented that we forget how to simply be. A walk in the park is not an experience, but a form of exercise to be completed. A meal is not a pleasure, but fuel to be consumed as quickly as possible. The face of a loved one is not a landscape to be explored, but a familiar object to be identified. We are living in a black and white movie of our own making, completely unaware that a world of vibrant, breathtaking color is available to us at any moment, if only we would learn how to look. The practice of gratitude is the way we learn to see in color again. It is the act of consciously, intentionally reawakening our senses. Let us start with the sense of sight. For a moment, allow your eyes to rest on something near you, something ordinary you might normally ignore. Perhaps a cup on your desk, a plant in the corner, or the back of your own hand. Instead of just labeling it cup, plant, hand, allow yourself to truly see it as if for the first time. Notice the play of light and shadow on its surface. See the subtle variations in its color, the texture, the shape, the lines. Look at the intricate, unique pattern of veins on a leaf, a network as complex as any river delta. Observe the fine lines on your own knuckles, a map of your life, of all the things your hands have done. The world is an infinite gallery of masterpieces, and we walk through it with our eyes closed. Gratitude for the sense of sight is the practice of opening them. It is silently saying, "Thank you for the gift of color. of light, of form, of being able to witness the sheer visual richness of reality. Now, let us turn to the sense of hearing. Our ears are constantly receiving information, but our mind is quick to filter and judge. We label sounds as pleasant, annoying, or unimportant noise. For this practice, let go of the labels. Just for a minute, simply listen. Close your eyes and open your ears to the entire soundscape of your present moment. What do you hear? Perhaps there is the distant hum of traffic, the rhythmic ticking of a clock, the faint chirp of a bird outside your window. Maybe you can hear the soft whir of a computer fan, the creak of your chair, or the sound of your own breathing. Each sound is a vibration, a temporary phenomenon arising and passing away in the present moment. Do not cling to the pleasant sounds or resist the unpleasant ones. Simply notice them all as proof that the world is alive with sound. Be grateful for the simple, miraculous ability of your ears to receive these vibrations and for your brain to translate them into a symphony of experience. Let us explore the often forgotten sense of smell. Scent is a primal, powerful gateway to memory and emotion, yet we rarely pay it any conscious attention. Throughout your day, make it a gentle practice to simply notice aromas. When you step outside, notice the scent of the air. Is it crisp and cool? Does it smell of rain on dry pavement? As you make your morning coffee or tea, pause for a moment to inhale its rich, comforting fragrance before you take the first sip. Notice the clean scent of freshly washed clothes, the earthy smell of a potted plant, the scent of an old book. Each aroma adds another layer, another dimension of texture to your reality. By bringing grateful awareness to this sense, you unlock a hidden world that has been present all along, an invisible landscape rich with information and feeling. Then there is the sense of taste. So much of our eating is done mindlessly, automatically, while we are distracted by our phones, our televisions, or our thoughts. To practice gratitude for taste is a revolutionary act. Take one small piece of food. It could be a raisin, a nut, a slice of fruit. Before you eat it, look at it. See its colors, its textures. Then place it in your mouth, but do not chew immediately. Just hold it on your tongue. Notice the initial sensations, then begin to chew very slowly. Release the explosion of flavor. Is it sweet? Is it sour? Is it complex? Notice the texture, the way it feels in your mouth. Try to eat that one small piece of food with your complete and undivided attention. And as you do, consider the incredible chain of causes and conditions that brought it to you. The sun, the rain, and the soil that nourished it. The farmer who tended it. The people who transported it and sold it. All of this, the work of the entire cosmos, is culminating in this one, simple, flavorful moment. This is what it means to truly taste. Finally, we come to the sense of touch, the language of our largest organ, the skin. We are in constant contact with the world, yet we are rarely aware of it. Right now, bring your awareness to the points of contact. Feel the sensation of your feet on the floor. Feel the solid, supportive reality of the ground beneath you. Feel the texture of the clothes against your skin. Notice the temperature of the air on your face and hands. If you are holding a cup, feel its warmth, its smoothness, its weight. The sense of touch is our most fundamental connection to the physical world. It is the constant reminder that we are here, embodied, grounded in reality. To be grateful for touch is to be grateful for the feeling of being alive in a tangible world. We can weave all of this together into a simple, beautiful practice. You can call it a 5-sense gratitude walk. The next time you find yourself walking somewhere, even if it's just from your desk to the kitchen, give yourself a new mission. Your goal is to find 5 things you can see that you are grateful for, 4 things you can hear that you are grateful for, 3 things you can feel through touch that you are grateful for, 2 things you can smell that you are grateful for, and 1 thing you can taste, or simply be grateful for the ability to taste. This simple game transforms a mundane activity into a treasure hunt. It pulls you out of the fog of your thoughts and drops you directly into the vibrant richness of the present moment. By reawakening our senses through this lens of gratitude, we discover a profound truth. The more that we were so desperately chasing in the world of achievement and acquisition was here all along, woven into the very fabric of our everyday experience. The extraordinary is hidden within the ordinary. The peace and wonder we seek is not in some exotic destination. It is in the taste of a glass of water, the sight of a passing cloud, and the feeling of the sun on our skin. We find that our life, exactly as it is already a feast for the senses. We have learned to find joy and wonder in these simple, pleasant experiences. But what happens when the senses bring us unpleasant news? What happens when we face hardship, pain, and difficulty? Can this powerful practice of gratitude extend even to the things we desperately wish to avoid? Having learned to anchor ourselves in the breath and to open our senses to the richness of the present moment, we have built a foundation of gratitude on pleasant ground. We have practiced appreciating the warmth of the sun, the taste of our food, the beauty of a simple flower. But life is not always pleasant. The senses also bring us news we do not wish to hear. The body feels pain, the ears hear harsh words, the eyes witness loss. What happens then? What happens when we are faced with hardship, with failure, with grief, with the unwelcome teachers of adversity? Can the practice of gratitude extend even here, to the very heart of our suffering? This may be the most difficult and most important part of our journey. Our immediate, instinctual reaction to pain is to resist it. We push it away, we deny it, we numb it, we curse it. We believe that happiness is a life free from problems, and so we declare war on our difficulties. This is a natural, deeply human response. Let us be very clear. This practice is not about pretending that pain doesn't hurt. It is not about forcing a smile through tears or engaging in a form of toxic positivity that denies our real experience. Gratitude for a challenge is not the same as being happy about it. It is something far more subtle, more courageous, and ultimately more transformative. It is the advanced course in the art of living. The first noble truth of the Buddhist path is the truth of dukkha, which can be translated as suffering or dissatisfaction. It is the recognition that to be alive is to experience challenges. Sickness, loss, disappointment, and failure are not signs that we have done something wrong. They are an inescapable part of the human condition. To try and construct a life entirely free of difficulty is to build a house on sand, destined for collapse. The goal of a wise life, therefore, is not to eliminate all challenges, but to learn how to relate to them differently. It is to learn how to meet our difficulties with such grace and wisdom that they become, against all odds, a source of our greatest strength. This is the alchemy of the spirit. It is the art of turning the lead of our suffering into the gold of our wisdom. Imagine the life of a blacksmith. The blacksmith takes a piece of raw, unformed iron. To transform it into a strong, sharp, and useful sword, it cannot be polished or coddled. It must be subjected to incredible stress. It must be plunged into the extreme heat of the fire, which softens it and makes it malleable. Then, it must be laid on the anvil and beaten with a heavy hammer over and over again. It is folded, hammered, and plunged back into the fire. This process is violent. It is stressful. But it is only through this intense ordeal of fire and force that the iron's inner structure is aligned, its impurities are burned away, and it gains the strength, flexibility, and resilience to become what it was meant to be. Our challenges are the fire and the hammer. We are the iron. It is a painful process, but without it we remain unformed, brittle, and weak. The difficulties of our lives are what forge the strength and character of our souls. There is no more powerful symbol for this process in the East than the lotus flower. Imagine a pond. On the surface, you might see a flower of exquisite beauty. its petals pristine white or pink, radiating a delicate fragrance. It sits in the sunlight, perfect and pure. But to understand the lotus, you cannot just look at the flower. You must look at where it comes from. The lotus has its roots deep in the mud, in the dark, murky, stagnant bottom of the pond. To reach the sunlight, the lotus seed must begin its journey in complete darkness. It must push its way up, slowly and persistently, through the thick, unpleasant sludge. The mud is not an obstacle to the lotus. It is its essential nourishment. The mud is the source of its life. Without the thick, dark mud, there could be no beautiful flower. We are the lotus. Our challenges are the mud. We are not beautiful in spite of our difficulties. We become beautiful because of them. The pain, the heartbreak, the failure, this is the rich, fertile mud that provides the nutrients for our spiritual growth. To be grateful for our challenges is to recognize the vital role of the mud. It is to look back at the darkest times in our lives and to understand, with the clarity of hindsight, that these were the very moments that forced us to grow, to develop compassion, to discover a strength we never knew we possessed. So, how do we practice this? It begins with compassion for ourselves. When you are in the middle of a storm, the goal is not to be grateful for the rain. The goal is to find shelter and survive. The time for this reflection is often after the storm has passed, when the winds have died down and the raw emotion is no longer overwhelming. You can take a journal and think of a past difficulty, a time you thought you would not survive. And then, with a gentle and curious mind, you can ask yourself a series of questions. What did this experience force me to learn? Perhaps a painful breakup taught you the importance of self-love and independence. Perhaps a job loss forced you to discover a new career path that was far more aligned with your true passions. What strength did I discover in myself? In the midst of the struggle, you likely found reserves of courage, patience, and resilience you never knew you had. The challenge revealed your own power to you. You can be grateful for that revelation. How did this experience clarify my values? Often, it is a health scare or a great loss that cuts through the trivialities of life and shows us what is truly important. We stop worrying about small things and start cherishing our health, our time, and our loved ones. You can be grateful for that clarity. Did this experience make me more compassionate? To have suffered is to understand the suffering of others. When you have known grief, you can sit with a grieving friend with a depth of empathy that was not available to you before. Your wound becomes a source of healing for others. You can be grateful for that deepening of your heart. When you engage in this practice, you are not erasing the pain of the past. You are honoring it. You are mining it for wisdom. You are transforming your personal history from a list of grievances into a curriculum for your own liberation. You begin to see that nothing was wasted. Every tear, every struggle, every dark night of the soul was a part of the curriculum. It was all part of the mud that was destined to nourish your bloom. This perspective changes everything. When a new challenge arises in your life, your initial reaction may still be fear or resistance. But beneath that, a new voice can begin to emerge, a quiet whisper of wisdom that says, "This is difficult, this hurts, but I have been in the fire before, and I have emerged stronger. There is a lesson here, there is growth here, there is mud here, and I am a lotus." This changes you from a passive victim of circumstance into an active, courageous participant in your own evolution. You begin to trust not only the pleasant parts of life, but the entire, messy, painful, beautiful process. Having learned to find the teacher in even our most difficult external circumstances, let us now turn this compassionate, appreciative awareness inward to the very vessel that carries us through all of these experiences, the constant companion on our journey, our own physical body. Having learned to find the teacher in our external challenges, in the mud of our lives, let us now turn this compassionate and appreciative awareness inward. We turn our attention to the silent, faithful companion that carries us through every storm and every sunny day, the vessel of our entire life experience. We turn our attention to the body. For so many of us, this is not a place of peace, it is a battlefield. From a very young age, we are taught to be at war with our own flesh. We are conditioned by a culture that relentlessly judges, compares, and criticizes our physical forms. We look in the mirror not with kindness, but with the harsh eye of a critic, forever cataloging our perceived flaws. Too much of this, not enough of that. Too old, too tired, too scarred. We inhabit our bodies like a disappointed tenant in a rundown apartment, always complaining about the plumbing and dreaming of a better place. This practice is an invitation to sign a peace treaty. It is an invitation to come home to yourself and to learn to see this body not as an ornament to be perfected, but as a sacred temple to be honored. To begin, we must shift our focus away from the superficiality of appearance and toward the breathtaking miracle of function. For a moment, let go of every judgment you have ever had about how your body looks and consider, with fresh eyes, what it does. Consider the heart. Tucked safely in your chest is a muscle, about the size of your fist, that began beating before you were even born, and has not taken a single vacation, a single day off, in all your years of life. It has pumped life-giving blood through thousands upon thousands of miles of veins and arteries, nourishing every part of you, without ever asking for a word of thanks. It is the most faithful drumbeat of your existence. Can you feel a flicker of gratitude for this incredible, unwavering servant? Consider your lungs, which we have already met. Even now, as you listen to these words, they are drawing in the air of the world, performing that magical exchange of oxygen for waste, keeping the flame of your life lit without any conscious command from you. Consider the intricate alchemy of your digestive system, a chemical factory of impossible complexity, which takes the food you eat and transforms it into the very energy that allows you to think, to move, to feel. Consider your immune system, a silent, vigilant army patrolling your inner world day and night, identifying and neutralizing countless threats that you will never even know existed. We are walking, talking miracles of biology, and we have been conditioned to ignore the miracle and fixate on the triviality of a wrinkle or a scar. The practice, then, is to consciously redirect our attention from form to function. Instead of engaging the inner critic when you think of your body, you can choose to engage a voice of appreciation. When you look at your hands, instead of noticing dry skin or crooked fingers, you can say, "Thank you, hands, for everything you allow me to do. Thank you for allowing me to write, to cook, to hold the hand of someone I love, to feel the world." When you think of your legs, instead of judging their shape or size, you can say, "Thank you, legs, for carrying me through this world. Thank you for the gift of mobility, for allowing me to stand, to walk, to dance. Thank you, eyes, for the gift of sight. Thank you, ears, for the gift of hearing." You can go through your entire body in this way, replacing a lifetime of criticism with a litany of sincere appreciation for the sheer gift of having a body that functions, however imperfectly. There is a story of an old monk who, at the end of a long day, was seen sitting by himself, gently massaging his tired and aching legs. A young novice, concerned, approached him and asked, "Master, are your legs causing you pain?" The old monk looked up and smiled a warm, gentle smile. "Oh yes," he said, "they are aching, they are tired, but I am not scolding them, I am thanking them." The novice looked confused. Thanking them for pain? The master patted his leg like a beloved old friend. "For more than 80 years, he explained, these two legs have carried me on this path. They have walked tens of thousands of miles, climbed mountains to visit remote temples, and stood for countless hours in meditation. They have never once complained or abandoned me. Today they are aching to tell me that they have worked hard and now need to rest. Their pain is not a failure, it is a wise and loyal message. So I am thanking them for their lifetime of service, and I am thanking them for their wisdom in telling me when it is time to be still." This story holds the key to transforming our relationship with the less pleasant aspects of our physical existence: pain, illness, and aging. Our culture teaches us to see these things as enemies, as a betrayal by the body. But from this wiser perspective, they can be seen as forms of communication. Pain is a signal, an alarm bell from a faithful friend, telling you, attention is needed here. Something is out of balance. Please, take care. Instead of cursing the pain, we can learn to thank it for the information it provides, for the invitation to tend to ourselves with care. An illness can be seen as the body's desperate measure to force a necessary rest, a re-evaluation of a lifestyle that is no longer sustainable. It is a harsh teacher, to be sure, but a teacher nonetheless. We are not grateful for the suffering itself, but for the message it carries, for the opportunity it gives us to listen more deeply to the profound intelligence of our own body. When you begin to cultivate this genuine appreciation for your body as a loyal companion and a wise teacher, something remarkable begins to happen. Your behavior naturally starts to change. Think about it. When you truly cherish something, a beautiful plant, a beloved pet, a classic car, you naturally want to take care of it. You give it the proper nourishment, the right amount of rest, and the attention it needs to thrive. The same becomes true for the body. The choice to eat healthy food is no longer a punishment or a diet born of self-loathing. It becomes an act of generosity, an offering of good fuel to a system you are grateful for. The choice to exercise is no longer a chore to fix a flawed object. It becomes a celebration of what your body can do, a joyful expression of its capacity for movement. We begin to care for our bodies not out of fear or shame, but out of love and respect. This practice is a homecoming. It is a truce in the longest and most intimate war of our lives. It is the realization that this body, with all its aches, its imperfections, its wrinkles, and its scars, is not our enemy. It is our home. It is the only home we will ever have in this life. It is the temple in which our entire existence unfolds. It has done its absolute best to serve us, often in the face of our own neglect and criticism. To inhabit this temple with gratitude is to find a source of peace and stability that is always with you. It is to befriend yourself at the most fundamental level. And now, having begun to make peace with ourselves in our own skin, having learned to inhabit our own temple with kindness, we can extend this circle of appreciative awareness. We can move from the inner world of the self to the world of others, and begin to explore how this powerful practice of gratitude can transform our relationships with the other beings who share this journey with us. Having made a courageous step toward making peace with our own physical bodies, we are now ready to extend the circle of awareness outward. We turn our attention to the complex, beautiful, and often challenging world of our relationships. Here, in our interactions with others, we find both our greatest joys and our deepest sorrows. A relationship can be a safe harbor, or it can be a stormy sea. The practice of gratitude, when applied with wisdom and sincerity, has the power to calm the waters, to mend the sails, and to help us navigate our way back to connection and love. One of the great paradoxes of human life is that we often treat strangers with more politeness and patience than we do the people we claim to love the most. The people closest to user partners, our children, our parents, our dearest friends can become so familiar that they become almost invisible. We stop seeing the living, breathing, changing human being in front of us, and instead, we see our history with them. We see a collection of our memories, our expectations, our resentments, and our assumptions. The person becomes a character in the story we tell ourselves, a story that is often focused on their flaws and our disappointments. We unconsciously keep a detailed mental ledger of their every mistake, every broken promise, every time they failed to meet our needs. And day after day, we read from this ledger of grievances, poisoning the present moment with the pains of the past. This habit of mind is a form of deficit thinking. Our attention is naturally magnetized to what is wrong, what is missing, what needs to be fixed in the other person. We become skilled detectives, constantly searching for evidence to prove our case that they are not good enough and that our unhappiness is their fault. Gratitude is the conscious, deliberate, and powerful antidote to this poison. It is the decision to put down the ledger of grievances and to start a new book, a book of appreciation. It is not about ignoring the difficulties or pretending the problems don't exist. It is about actively and intentionally balancing the scales. It is about training our minds to seek out the good. Think of the person closest to you. For this practice, your only task is to become a benefit finder, a detective searching for clues of goodness. Look for the small things you have long since taken for granted. The way they make coffee in the morning, the fact that they go to work every day to support the family, their quirky sense of humor that can still make you laugh, the way they are patient with your difficult relatives, a moment of kindness they showed to a stranger, a skill they have that you admire. We must hunt for the good with the same diligence we have previously used to hunt for the bad. This practice requires humility. It requires us to admit that our negative story of the other person might not be the whole story. There is a powerful story of a couple whose relationship was on the verge of collapse. They were filled with years of bitterness and resentment. As a final, desperate measure, they went to a wise counselor who gave them a strange instruction. She told the wife, "For the next 30 days, your only task is to get a notebook and every day write down one thing you appreciate about your husband. You are not allowed to say it to him. Just write it down for yourself." The wife agreed, though she was deeply skeptical. The first few days were incredibly difficult. Her mind was so trained on his faults that she could barely think of anything. On day 1, she wrote, "He took out the garbage." On day 2, he didn't leave his socks on the floor. But as she continued this practice, a subtle shift began to occur. Because she was actively looking for the good, she started to find it. On day 5, she wrote, "He has a nice smile when he isn't scowling." On day 10, he was very kind to the waitress at the restaurant. On day 15, "I remember how much he loves dogs." It shows a soft part of his heart. As she filled the notebook, she wasn't just observing him, she was changing herself. The act of seeking the good began to soften her own heart. The thick ice of her resentment began to melt just a little around the edges. Because her heart was softer, she began to speak to him with a little less anger, a little more kindness. He, in turn, feeling less attacked, began to relax and respond more positively. By the end of the 30 days, the atmosphere in their home had fundamentally changed. The relationship began to heal, not because the husband had magically transformed, but because the wife had single-handedly changed the dynamic by changing her own perception. She gave him the gift of being seen for his best self, and in doing so, invited his best self to come forward. This practice can be extended even to the most difficult people in our lives, the critical boss, the negative family member, the unreliable friend. These people, as we have learned, are our greatest teachers. They are the sandpaper that life uses to smooth our rough edges. They provide us with tailor-made opportunities to practice patience, to develop compassion, and to strengthen our own inner resolve. The gratitude here is not for their difficult behavior. We do not have to appreciate being treated poorly. The gratitude is for the opportunity to practice that their behavior provides. You can be grateful to your critical boss for teaching you how to remain centered under pressure. You can be grateful to a negative relative for giving you a chance to practice setting healthy boundaries with compassion. This reframes you from a victim into a student in the grand school of life. At the deepest level, gratitude in relationships is about learning to see what the Buddhist tradition calls Buddha nature in others. This is the profound understanding that within every single living being, there is an innate, luminous potential for wisdom, goodness, and compassion. It is like a core of pure, indestructible gold that exists at the center of every person. In most of us, including ourselves, this golden core is covered by thick layers of mud and clay layers of fear, of trauma, of conditioning, of ego, and of deeply ingrained habits. People's hurtful actions almost always come from these layers of mud, from their own suffering and confusion. The practice of seeing the Buddha nature is the practice of trying to relate to the gold, not the clay. When someone is acting out of their anger, their jealousy, or their fear, can we remember that this is their mud speaking? And can we remember that deep inside that suffering person is a core of gold that is also hurting, that is trapped and wants to be free? This does not mean we excuse or condone harmful behavior. We must still protect ourselves and set firm boundaries. But we can do so with a different heart. We set the boundary not with hatred for the person, but with compassion for the suffering that is causing them to act this way. We separate the person from their behavior. This changes the entire energy of our interactions. It prevents us from accumulating the poison of resentment in our own hearts. To practice gratitude in relationships is to perform a kind of holy alchemy. It is to consciously choose to see the best in people, even when they are showing you their worst. It is to give them the space to be more than their mistakes. It is the most profound gift you can offer another human being, the gift of your own positive perception, the gift of being seen not as a problem to be solved, but as a being with a core of gold. When our hearts are softened by this practice, when we begin to see the inherent goodness in ourselves and in others, a natural and beautiful impulse begins to arise. We move from a state of simple appreciation to a heartfelt desire to contribute, to share, to give back. This is the natural flowering of gratitude into its luminous sister quality, generosity. As the practice of gratitude softens our hearts, allowing us to see the goodness in ourselves and the inherent potential for goodness in others, a beautiful and natural consequence begins to unfold. A heart that is consistently watered with appreciation cannot help but become full, and a heart that is full, like a cup filled to the very brim, has a natural tendency to overflow. This generous, spontaneous overflowing of the heart is known in the Buddhist tradition as dana. It is the luminous sister quality of gratitude, the outward expression of our inner feeling of abundance. The two are inseparable, locked in a beautiful, upward spiraling dance that leads directly to joy. When we hear the word generosity, our minds often jump immediately to the idea of money. We think of donating to charities or giving financial help to those in need. While this is certainly a valid and important form of dana, to limit generosity to material giving is to misunderstand its vast and profound scope. The wisdom traditions teach that there are many ways to give, some of which are far more precious than silver or gold. True generosity is an orientation of the spirit, a willingness to share whatever resources we have, tangible or intangible. There is, of course, the giving of material things. This is the gift of food to the hungry, shelter to the homeless, medicine to the sick. It is the simple act of buying a coffee for a friend or leaving a generous tip for a service well done. But in this form of giving, the spirit behind the act is more important than the amount. A small gift, given with a full and open heart, is infinitely more powerful than a large one given out of a sense of obligation or for the sake of one's own reputation. Deeper than this is the giving of fearlessness. This is the gift of safety, of comfort, of peace of mind. When you listen with your full, non-judgmental attention to a friend who is in distress, allowing them to unburden their heart in a safe space, you are practicing dana. When you offer a sincere word of encouragement to someone who is filled with self-doubt, you are giving the gift of fearlessness. When you protect someone who is vulnerable, when you stand up against injustice, when you offer forgiveness to someone who has wronged you, you are removing fear and creating safety in the world. This is a profound form of generosity. Perhaps the highest and most valuable form of giving is the giving of wisdom, the giving of understanding. This is the gift of sharing what you have learned that can help alleviate the suffering of another. It does not mean preaching or giving unsolicited advice. It often takes the form of sharing these very practices. It is teaching a child how to be mindful, sharing a helpful book with a friend, or embodying a sense of peace that inspires others to ask about your path. It is the gift of helping others learn how to find their own inner wellspring of peace and contentment. You are not just giving them a fish, you are teaching them how to fish. This impulse to give in all its forms arises naturally from a mind that has been cultivated by gratitude. Gratitude is the engine that shifts us from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance. The mindset of scarcity, which is the default state for many of us, is rooted in the endless thirst. It whispers, "There is not enough. I must protect what is mine. If I give something away, I will have less, and I will be less." This mindset leads to clinging, fear, anxiety, and a feeling of isolation. Gratitude systematically dismantles this worldview. By constantly training our attention on what we have, our breath, our senses, our health, the kindness of others, we begin to feel, at a deep cellular level, that we are already wealthy. We have enough. Our cup is full. There is a powerful story that illustrates this truth. A beggar was sitting by the side of the road, and his only possession in the world was a single small piece of bread that was meant to be his only meal for the day. Before eating it, he took a moment to practice what he had learned from a passing monk. He held the bread in his hands, looked at it, and felt a profound wave of gratitude wash over him. "Thank you for this bread," he whispered. "Today, I have food. Today, I am fortunate." In that moment, he did not feel like a poor man. He felt like the richest man in the world, because he had exactly what he needed. Just then, another beggar, whose face was etched with hunger and despair, stumbled towards him and pleaded for a scrap of food. A moment before, from a mindset of scarcity, the first beggar would have clutched his bread fearfully. But now, operating from his newfound feeling of abundance, he did not hesitate. He broke his only piece of bread in half and offered it with a genuine smile. The second beggar was astonished. "But why?" he asked. "This was all you had." The first beggar looked at the half-piece remaining in his own hand and replied, "When I thought this was just a small piece of bread, I was a poor man. But when I felt grateful for it, I realized I was a rich man with enough to share. Giving you this half is the only way I get to truly enjoy my riches." This story reveals the core of Dana. Generosity is not dictated by the size of our bank account, but by the spaciousness of our heart. It is the tangible, joyful expression of an inner state of sufficiency. And this is where the beautiful upward spiral begins. The act of giving itself produces a profound sense of joy and connection. Neuroscientists have shown that altruistic acts trigger the release of endorphins and dopamine in the brain, the same neurochemicals associated with pleasure and reward. It feels good to give. This feeling of joy, this warm glow, becomes in itself another profound reason to be grateful. I am so grateful I had the opportunity to help. I am so grateful I could ease another's burden. This new layer of gratitude further deepens our sense of abundance, which in turn fuels our desire to give even more. Gratitude leads to generosity, which leads to joy, which leads to more gratitude. This is the virtuous circle, the direct antidote to the vicious circle of craving, acquiring, and feeling dissatisfied. Furthermore, every act of giving loosens the tight, cold grip of the ego. The egoic mind is fundamentally contractive. It is built around the concepts of me, my, and mine. It seeks to accumulate and to fortify its own territory. Giving is an act of expansion. It is a practice of letting go. It dissolves the illusory boundary between self and other, reminding us of the deep truth of our interconnectedness. It helps us to realize that your well-being and my well-being are not separate things. In helping you, I am helping myself. Gratitude and generosity, then, are two sides of the same golden coin. Gratitude is the practice of filling our own cup until it is full. Generosity is the practice of letting it joyfully overflow for the benefit of all. As we learn to give freely of our time, our kindness, and our resources, we begin to hold the things of this world with a lighter, more open hand. This practice of non-clinging prepares us for one of the most profound and liberating insights of all, the wisdom of embracing the transient, ever-changing nature of life itself. It prepares us to be grateful not just for what we have, but for the beautiful, fleeting, and precious dance of impermanence. Having explored the joyful, expansive dance between gratitude and generosity, we find that both practices help us to hold the things of this world with a lighter touch. We learn to appreciate without clinging, and to give without fear. This lightness of being prepares us for one of the most profound and initially most frightening insights on the spiritual path, the wisdom of embracing impermanence. In the Buddhist tradition, this universal truth is called anicca. It is the simple, radical, and inescapable fact that everything changes. Nothing is permanent. Our entire lives are often an elaborate, exhausting attempt to deny this truth. We crave stability, security, and certainty in a universe that is defined by flow, change, and uncertainty. We try to build solid ground in a world that is, by its very nature, a constantly flowing river. We fall in love and wish it would stay in its perfect initial stage forever. We achieve a moment of success and try to freeze it in time. We are young and healthy and cannot imagine being old and frail. We suffer from the deep-seated illusion that things are solid and static, and so when they inevitably change, we suffer. We feel that life has betrayed us. The wisdom of anicca suggests that the problem is not that things change. The problem is our expectation that they should stay the same. The suffering comes not from impermanence itself, but from our futile, lifelong resistance to it. To be grateful for impermanence sounds like a contradiction. How can we be thankful for the law that guarantees we will lose everything we love? This is where we must look deeper, beyond our initial fear. Imagine a magnificent sunset, painting the sky with impossible colors of orange, pink, and gold. You stand in awe of its beauty. Part of what makes it so breathtakingly precious is the very fact that it is fleeting. You know that in a few minutes, the colors will fade and the light will die. If that sunset were a permanent fixture in the sky, we would eventually cease to notice it. We would take its beauty for granted. It is the transient, ephemeral nature of the sunset that breaks our heart open and commands our full, reverent attention. Impermanence is what makes life precious. This is the secret that unlocks a deeper way of living and loving. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh tells a beautiful story about his favorite teacup. It was a simple, elegant cup, and he enjoyed drinking his tea from it every day. He would hold it with great care and appreciation. One day a student remarked, "Master, you seem to love that cup very much." The master smiled and replied, "I do, but in my mind, this cup is already broken." The student was confused. "What do you mean?" "It is here, perfectly intact." The master explained, "I know that its nature is to be fragile. I know that its destiny is to one day be broken. A gust of wind, a slip of my hand, and it will fall to the floor and shatter into 100 pieces. By contemplating its inevitable end, I am able to cherish it fully right now. Every time I drink from it is a miracle. And so, when the day comes that it finally does break, I will not be shocked or devastated. I will simply be able to say, 'Of course,' and I will let it go in peace." This is the practice of gratitude for impermanence. It is looking at the people you love not as permanent fixtures in your life, but as precious, fleeting gifts. It is understanding that your time with them is finite. This understanding does not lead to morbid fear. It leads to a vibrant, urgent appreciation. It is the catalyst that makes you put down your phone at the dinner table and truly listen to them. It is the motivation to forgive a petty argument, to say "I love you" today instead of tomorrow, to cherish the simple, ordinary moments, because you know that the collection of ordinary moments is what makes a life. When you understand that your loved ones are already broken, you treat them like the treasures they are, right now. in this moment. This wisdom is a coin with two sides. On one side, it brings this poignant appreciation for the good things in our life. On the other, it brings immense hope and relief in times of suffering. When we are caught in the grips of deep sadness, physical pain, or despair, our minds often create a second layer of suffering by believing, "This will last forever. I will always feel this way." This belief in the permanence of our pain is what makes it feel truly unbearable. The law of anicca is a lifeline in these moments. It is the absolute guarantee that this too shall pass. No emotional state is permanent. No pain is forever. The storm will exhaust itself. The dark clouds will part. The winter of our sorrow will, eventually, give way to the spring. To be able to remember this in our darkest hours is a profound gift. We can be deeply grateful for the law that ensures no suffering is a life sentence. It is nature's ultimate promise of renewal. You can practice cultivating this wisdom in simple ways. Sit and watch the clouds move across the sky, noticing how they form, change, shape, and dissolve without a trace. This is the nature of your thoughts. Sit by a river and watch the water flow, knowing that it is never the same river from one moment to the next. This is the nature of life. Observe your own feelings. Notice how anger can arise like a fire, burn hot, and then fade to embers. Notice how joy can bubble up and then transform into quiet contentment. Your inner world is a constant demonstration of anicca. By simply noticing this flow without resisting it, you train your mind to be more at ease with change. You become more flexible, more resilient, more like the supple bamboo that bends in the wind rather than the rigid oak that snaps. To be grateful for impermanence is a sign of deep spiritual maturity. It is the ultimate act of letting go. It is saying yes to the totality of life, with its hellos and its goodbyes, its creations and its dissolutions. It frees us from the impossible, exhausting work of trying to hold on to water to freeze the river. It allows us to love the people in our lives more deeply and authentically, not for what we hope they will be, but for who they are in this precious, unrepeatable moment. It allows us to face our own suffering with courage and hope, knowing that it is a passing weather pattern in the vast sky of our awareness. Having found a way to be at peace with this universal law of change, we can now turn to a more specific and often challenging interpersonal dynamic. How do we relate to the good fortune of others, especially when we ourselves are struggling? The wisdom of gratitude offers a powerful path to transform the poison of envy into the pure joy of celebration. Having learned to find peace with the great cosmic law of change, we now turn our focus from the universal to the deeply personal. We venture into the often turbulent territory of our hearts as we witness the lives of others. In a world that is hyper-connected, we are given a constant front-row seat to the achievements, the joys, and the good fortune of everyone we know, and even millions we don't. We see the announcement of a colleague's promotion, a friend's picture-perfect vacation, another's blissful wedding day, or the success of a rival. And if we are honest with ourselves, the feeling that often arises in our hearts is not pure joy. It is a sharp, secret, and painful sting. It is the cold poison of comparison, the bitter taste of envy. To feel envy is to suffer. It is a deeply uncomfortable and often shame-filled emotion, one we rarely admit even to ourselves. We feel petty, small, and mean-spirited. But the first step in transforming this poison is to approach it with compassion, not judgment. Envy is not a sign that you are a bad person. It is a painful but predictable symptom of the scarcity mindset. It is the voice of Tanha, the inner thirst, whispering its most painful lie. Happiness is a limited resource. There is only so much to go around. Their success means there is less for you. Their gain is your loss. When we believe this lie, the success of others feels like a direct threat to our own well-being. Our world shrinks, our heart contracts, and we become trapped in a lonely prison of our own making. The Buddhist path offers a direct and powerful antidote to this self-inflicted suffering. It is a practice of cultivating the opposite state of mind, a quality known as mudita. Mudita translates as sympathetic or unselfish joy. It is the radical and liberating practice of learning to rejoice in the happiness, success, and good fortune of others. It is not just a nice idea. It is one of the 4 sublime states of heart, considered to be one of the most beautiful and beneficial qualities a human being can develop. To cultivate mudita is to discover an infinite and renewable source of happiness. The logic of mudita completely dismantles the logic of envy. It reveals that happiness is not a limited pie. Happiness is more like a candle flame. If you have a lighted candle, you can use it to light 1,000 other candles, and the flame of your own candle is not diminished in any way. In fact, the only result is that the entire room becomes brighter for everyone. To rejoice in another's success is to light their candle with your own, and in doing so, to fill your shared world with more light, more warmth, and more joy. When you can feel happy for someone else's happiness, you have just doubled the amount of happiness in your own experience. When you can feel happy for the happiness of 10 people or 1,000 people, you have multiplied your own potential for joy 1,000-fold. There is a Zen story about 2 students, Haru and Kenji, studying with a master. Kenji was a natural, and his meditation practice progressed quickly. Haru, however, struggled. His mind was restless, and he found it difficult to be still. Every time he saw the master praise Kenji, or saw the peaceful look on Kenji's face after meditation, his heart would fill with a toxic brew of jealousy and frustration. Why him and not me, he would think. His envy became a heavy stone in his mind, and his own practice ground to a halt. The wise master saw Haru's inner turmoil. He didn't scold him. He compassionately took him aside one day and said, "Haru, your mind is heavy because you are trying to climb this mountain alone, and you see Kenji as a competitor who is ahead of you, but you are mistaken. Kenji is not your competitor. He is your guide. Every step he takes up the mountain shows you that the summit is real and the path is possible." The master then gave Haru a new, secret practice. From now on, he said, every time you see Kenji, every time you notice his success or his peace, I want you to stop, take a breath, and silently wish him well. Say in your own heart, I rejoice in your progress. Your happiness is my happiness. Your success brings me joy. Do this without fail. At first, Haru found it nearly impossible. The words felt like lies in his mouth. His mind screamed in protest. But he had promised his master, and so he persisted. After a week of this silent practice, something began to shift. The sharp sting of envy began to lessen. When he saw Kenji, instead of a knot in his stomach, he began to feel a faint warmth. He started to see Kenji not as a rival, but as a friend on the same path. By the 3rd week, he found himself feeling a flicker of genuine joy when the master praised Kenji. He felt inspired, not defeated. Freed from the immense weight of comparison and resentment, his own mind became lighter and more spacious. And in that spaciousness, his own meditation practice finally began to blossom. He had learned that celebrating another's success was the key to unlocking his own. This is a practice we can all undertake. It begins with a conscious intention. When you hear of another's good fortune, notice the immediate, habitual reaction of envy. Acknowledge it without judgment. Ah, there is envy. Then, gently but firmly, pivot. Use a simple phrase. I am happy that you are happy. May your joy and success continue. Your good fortune inspires me. Repeat it silently. Try to feel it. Physically smile, even if it feels forced at first. The body can often lead the heart. This is where gratitude becomes our most powerful ally. When envy arises, it is because we are focused on what we lack. The immediate antidote is to pivot to gratitude for what we have. If you feel envious of a friend's new, larger house, take a moment to feel deep, sincere gratitude for the roof you have over your own head, for the safety and comfort of your own home. If you feel jealous of a colleague's promotion, pivot to gratitude for the job you have, for the skills you possess, for the income that sustains you. Gratitude grounds you in the reality of your own abundance. From that feeling of fullness, it becomes infinitely easier to feel happy for someone else, because their success no longer feels like it highlights your own deficiency. It is important to know that practicing mudita does not mean you must extinguish your own desires. You can be genuinely happy for your friend's new home and still have a goal of one day owning a home yourself. You can celebrate your colleague's promotion while still working hard to earn your own. The difference is that their success is no longer a source of pain for you. It is a source of information and inspiration. It proves that success is possible. It lights the path ahead. Envy is a form of self-imprisonment. It narrows our world down to the painful awareness of what we don't have. Mudita is the key that unlocks the door. It is a radical act of connection that expands our world to include all the joy and happiness that exists. It is the understanding that we are not separate, competing entities, but interconnected beings whose joys can be shared and multiplied. As we cultivate this open, celebratory heart, a new, more subtle challenge can arise. How do we keep our gratitude practice for our own lives and for the lives of others from becoming stale, routine, and mechanical? We must now learn to overcome the trap of familiarity and keep our sense of wonder alive. Having cultivated a heart that can celebrate the good fortune of others, we have expanded our capacity for joy immensely. We have learned to practice gratitude for our breath, our senses, our challenges, our bodies, and our relationships. We may have started a journal or a daily moment of reflection. For a time, this practice feels powerful and transformative. The world seems brighter, our hearts lighter. But then, for many of us, a new and subtle challenge arises. The colors begin to fade. The practice starts to feel routine. The gratitude journal becomes a chore, and we find ourselves writing the same list every day. I'm grateful for my family, my health, my home. The words are there, but the feeling is gone. The magic has vanished. This is not a personal failure. It is not a sign that the practice has stopped working or that you are doing it wrong. It is a predictable and universal human experience known as the trap of familiarity. Our brains are magnificent, highly efficient organs, but their very efficiency can be the enemy of joy. The psychological term for this phenomenon is hedonic adaptation. It means that we are wired to get used to things. The new car that once brought a thrill becomes just a mode of transportation. The stunning view from a new home eventually becomes mere background scenery. The partner whose presence was once a source of constant excitement becomes a familiar and often unnoticed part of the furniture of our lives. The brain does this to conserve energy. It creates mental shortcuts, labeling familiar things so it doesn't have to process them from scratch every time. This is useful for survival, but it is a thief of wonder. It robs us of the raw, vivid experience of life by replacing it with dull, second-hand labels. The goal of a living gratitude practice is to consciously and continuously short-circuit this process. It is to move from merely thinking about what we are grateful for to truly feeling the emotion of gratitude in our hearts and bodies. When the feeling fades, it means our practice has become too robotic, too reliant on the expert mind that thinks it already knows everything. The antidote to the expert mind is the cornerstone of Zen practice, Shoshin, or beginner's mind. The great Zen teacher Shunryu Suzuki famously said, "In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind, there are few." The expert mind looks at your spouse of 20 years and thinks, "I know everything there is to know about this person." The beginner's mind looks at them as if for the first time and is open to discovering a new expression, a hidden thought, a subtle change. The expert mind walks the same path to work every day and sees nothing. The beginner's mind walks that path with curiosity, noticing the new flower that has bloomed overnight, the way the light hits a building, the pattern of cracks in the sidewalk. To overcome the trap of familiarity is to learn how to live with a beginner's mind. There is a story that illustrates this beautifully. A potter made a simple ceramic bowl. It was not a masterpiece. The shape was a little lopsided, and the glaze was a drab, uneven brown. He thought of it as one of his failures, an ugly bowl, and put it on a high shelf to be forgotten. Years later, needing a bowl for his morning tea, he took it down. He decided to commit to a simple practice. Every morning he would drink his tea from this bowl, and for 1 minute he would simply look at it with his full attention. The first few days, all he saw were its imperfections. It was just as ugly as he remembered, but he persisted. Around the 5th day, his eye caught a tiny fleck of blue in the brown glaze that he had never noticed before. The next day, he noticed how the rim was not perfectly round, but had a subtle indentation that fit his thumb perfectly. The week after, he saw that in the right light, a network of fine, hairline cracks under the glaze, a pattern called crazing, looked like a delicate spider's web. Month after month, his daily observation continued. He discovered every unique nuance of the bowl, the way it felt in his hands, the specific sound it made when placed on the wooden table, the way its drab color seemed to change with the shifting light of the seasons. After a year, this ugly bowl had become his most cherished possession. It was not beautiful in the conventional sense, but it was profoundly, intimately real to him. He had fallen in love, not with an idea of a perfect bowl, but with the deep, flawed, one-of-a-kind reality of this bowl. He had not changed the bowl at all. He had changed his way of seeing it, simply by applying sustained, curious, beginner's mind attention. Everything in our lives, every person, every object, every daily routine is this ugly bowl, waiting for us to discover its hidden beauty. So, how do we practice this? We can start by varying our techniques. If your gratitude journal has become stale, put it away for a week. Instead, try a gratitude walk, where your only goal is to notice things in your environment that you are thankful for. Or, make it a practice to verbally express your appreciation to one person each day. Sometimes, changing the method is all it takes to reawaken the feeling. Next, we must get more specific, more granular. Instead of the general, "I'm grateful for my health," go micro. Try, "I am grateful for the cilia in my lungs, these tiny hairs that are filtering the air I breathe right now." Instead of, "I'm grateful for my partner," try, "I am grateful for the specific way my partner's eyes crinkle at the corners when they genuinely laugh." This level of specificity forces your mind to abandon the generic label and pay fresh attention to reality as it is. It forces you into beginner's mind. A particularly powerful technique for shattering familiarity is the practice of negative visualization, or mental subtraction. Spend a few moments seriously contemplating your life without something or someone you take for granted. Imagine your life if you had never met your best friend. Imagine waking up tomorrow and not being able to see. Imagine losing the comfort and safety of your home. Sit with that imagined loss for a minute or two. Then, open your eyes and return your awareness to the truth of your present reality. The person is in your life. You can see. You do have a home. The feeling of gratitude that rushes in to fill the void of that imagined loss is often incredibly powerful and visceral. It is a splash of cold, refreshing water on a mind that has fallen asleep. Familiarity is the slow, creeping fog that dulls the vibrant colors of our world. A living gratitude practice is the constant, gentle wind that blows this fog away. It is the commitment to curiosity. It is the courage to admit that we do not, in fact, know everything about the life we are living. It is the humility to look at the world each day with the fresh, wide-open eyes of a beginner. By using these techniques, we are not just engaging in a pleasant psychological exercise to feel better. We are, in fact, actively participating in the rewiring of our own brains. The ancient wisdom that tells us this practice is profoundly beneficial is now being validated by the rigorous, objective language of modern neuroscience. By learning to approach our lives with a beginner's mind, we protect our practice from the slow fog of familiarity. We keep the feeling of appreciation alive and vibrant. For many, This lived experience is enough. The inner sense of peace and growing joy is its own reward. Yet, in our modern age, we are fortunate to have access to another language for understanding this transformation, a language of data, of biology, of objective measurement. We can now turn to the world of science, which, in its own way, is beginning to map the profound changes that occur when we cultivate a grateful heart. The ancient wisdom that tells us this practice is beneficial is now being confirmed by the rigorous, evidence-based findings of modern neuroscience. For millennia, contemplative traditions have been laboratories of the mind, using direct, first-person experience to understand the nature of suffering and happiness. Today, with powerful tools like functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, scientists can peer inside the brain and witness what these traditions have long described. They are discovering that gratitude is not just a fleeting, positive emotion. It is a complex cognitive and emotional state that actively reshapes the physical landscape of our brains. When you engage in a moment of sincere gratitude, specific regions of your brain light up, revealing the deep work that is taking place. One of the most significant areas affected is the medial prefrontal cortex. This region, located in the front of your brain, is like the mind's wise and compassionate CEO. It is heavily involved in higher-order functions like emotional regulation, decision-making, and understanding the perspectives of others. When you feel grateful, you are literally activating the part of your brain that helps you to be less reactive, more empathetic, and better able to soothe your own difficult feelings. Gratitude pulls you out of the primitive, self-absorbed fight-or-flight parts of the brain and engages the more evolved, socially intelligent adult in the room. Furthermore, studies have shown that gratitude also stimulates the hypothalamus, a crucial regulatory structure that helps control sleep, appetite, and stress, as well as the brain's reward centers, which produce the neurotransmitter dopamine. This means that the brain chemically rewards us for being grateful. It feels good, creating a positive feedback loop that encourages us to do it more often. This, however, is just what happens in the moment. The truly revolutionary discovery of modern neuroscience is the concept of neuroplasticity. For centuries, it was believed that the adult brain was a fixed, static organ. We now know this is untrue. The brain is remarkably plastic, meaning it can and does change its own structure and function based on our thoughts, feelings, and experiences. The principle is simple and profound. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Think of your brain as a dense forest. Your habitual thought patterns are like well-worn paths. A pattern of worry or self-criticism is like a deep, muddy trench in this forest. Your thoughts travel down it automatically because it is the path of least resistance. When you first begin to practice gratitude, it can feel difficult and unnatural. You are trying to forge a new path in this dense forest. You have to push through the undergrowth. But every time you consciously choose to focus on something you are grateful for, you are taking another step down this new path, clearing it a little more. With consistent practice, day after day, this new gratitude path becomes wider, smoother, and easier to travel. The old, negative path, through disuse, begins to grow over. You are not just changing your mind in a metaphorical sense. You are physically changing the hardware of your brain. You are building the neural architecture of happiness. Gratitude is not a mood, it is a skill, a form of mental training as tangible as lifting weights to build a muscle. This rewiring is accompanied by a shift in our brain's chemical environment. Consistent gratitude practice has been shown to boost the production of key neurotransmitters like serotonin, which plays a vital role in regulating mood and promoting a sense of well-being. It is no coincidence that many antidepressant medications work by increasing the availability of serotonin in the brain. Gratitude appears to be a natural way to achieve a similar effect. At the same time, it can significantly lower levels of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. High levels of cortisol are linked to a host of health problems, from anxiety and depression to heart disease and a weakened immune system. Some studies have shown that a regular gratitude practice can reduce cortisol levels by as much as 23%. This is a testament to its power to soothe the body's stress response and promote physical health. This science is not just theoretical, it is lived out in the stories of real people. Consider the example of a military veteran whom we'll call Mike. After returning from combat, Mike was plagued by post-traumatic stress disorder. His brain was stuck in a state of hypervigilance, his amygdala, the brain's fear center, constantly firing. He suffered from nightmares, anxiety, and a profound sense of disconnection from the world. He was introduced to a simple, structured gratitude practice. Every night before bed, write down 3 specific concrete things from his day that he was grateful for. At first, the practice felt absurd, even insulting. His mind was a storm of traumatic memories, but he forced himself to start. I am grateful for the hot coffee this morning. I am grateful I saw a dog on my walk. I am grateful the rain stopped. Slowly, painstakingly, he was carving a new neural pathway. He was forcing his brain, for just a few minutes each day, to disengage from the well-worn path of trauma and to actively scan the world for something positive. Over months, the practice began to have a noticeable effect. The new gratitude path grew stronger. He found that he could access a sense of calm more readily. The nightmares lessened in their intensity. He was not cured, but he had forged a powerful tool. He had used the principle of neuroplasticity to build a small sanctuary of peace inside his own mind, a place he could go when the ghosts of the past became too loud. His story is a living demonstration of the brain's incredible capacity to heal and change. The evidence is clear and growing. The wisdom of the ancients is being echoed in the labs of the moderns. Gratitude is a powerful intervention that measurably improves our lives. Studies from positive psychology have confirmed that people who consistently practice gratitude report better sleep, have stronger immune systems, experience more joy and optimism, and feel less lonely and isolated. Science is not discovering anything new here. It is simply building a new, sturdy bridge to an ancient and timeless truth. The path to a peaceful mind and a happy heart is not a matter of chance or circumstance, it is a matter of practice. We are not just wishing for peace, we are actively, scientifically, building it within our own brains. Knowing now that this practice is backed by both the direct experience of sages and the objective data of scientists, we can feel empowered to apply it to one of the most challenging areas of modern life, a place where stress, frustration, and dissatisfaction often run high. Our daily work, armed with the knowledge that the practice of gratitude is supported by both ancient wisdom and modern science, we can now feel empowered to apply this transformative tool to one of the most significant and often challenging areas of our lives. We turn our attention to our work. For so many people in the modern world, the place where they spend the majority of their waking hours is a source of immense stress, boredom, frustration, and a pervasive sense of meaninglessness. It is the Sunday evening dread, the feeling of being a small cog in a vast impersonal machine, the experience of living for the weekend. We often see our work as a burden to be endured, a necessary evil to pay the bills. Before we proceed, let us be clear. This practice is not about ignoring or tolerating toxic or unjust work environments. It is not a call for complacency in the face of exploitation. Setting healthy boundaries and seeking work that is safe and respectful is essential. However, many of us find ourselves in situations that are not necessarily abusive, but simply unfulfilling. It is here, in the vast territory of the mundane and the monotonous, that gratitude can enact a quiet revolution. While we may not be able to change our job overnight, we have the power, in this very moment, to begin to change our relationship to our job. If you find it difficult to feel any sense of joy or purpose in your work, the practice begins at the most fundamental level. It starts with gratitude for the absolute basics. First, gratitude for having a job at all. In a world where many struggle with unemployment and financial instability, The simple fact of having a steady income is a profound gift. It is the source of the food on your table, the roof over your head, and the security of your family. Before it is anything else, a job is a lifeline to survival. We can take a moment each day to genuinely acknowledge and appreciate this fundamental security. From there, we can cultivate gratitude for the opportunity to use and develop our skills. Even the most repetitive job hones certain abilities. Perhaps your work has taught you patience or attention to detail. Perhaps it has sharpened your communication skills or your ability to solve problems under pressure. These are real, transferable assets you are building every day. Your work is a training ground, and you can be grateful for the ways it is making you more capable. Having established this basic foundation, we can begin to expand the circle of our awareness to the people we work with. So often, we see our colleagues as competitors, annoyances, or simply as roles rather than as people. The practice of gratitude invites us to look for the good. Is there a coworker who always has a kind word? Is there someone who is reliable and makes your own job easier? Is there someone whose different perspective challenges you to think in new ways? Even the difficult colleague, as we have learned, can be seen as a teacher, providing us with a personal, daily workshop in the art of patience and non-reactivity. We can also extend gratitude to the people our work serves, the customers, clients, or the public. In some way, large or small, your effort is contributing to their lives, making something easier, more pleasant, or more efficient for them. You can be grateful for the opportunity to be of service. The power of this shift in perspective is perfectly captured in the timeless story of the three stonemasons. A traveler came upon a large construction site and saw three men doing the exact same work. They were chipping away at large blocks of stone under the hot sun. He approached the first man, whose face was etched with misery and fatigue. "My good man, what are you doing?" the traveler asked. The stonemason scowled and replied, "Are you blind? I'm cutting this stupid heavy rock. My back aches, the dust gets in my eyes, and the pay is too low. I'm just doing it to survive." The traveler moved on to the second man, who was working diligently, his face neutral and focused. "And you, sir, what are you doing?" he asked. The man paused, wiped his brow, and said, "I am a stonemason. I am practicing my craft. My job is to cut these stones into perfect, uniform blocks so they can be used to build a strong, sturdy wall." Finally, the traveler approached the third man. This man was also sweating and covered in dust, but his eyes held an unmistakable light, and he was humming a quiet tune as he worked. "And you, my friend?" the traveler asked. "What are you doing?" The man stopped, looked up at the sky, and a broad smile spread across his face. "Me?" he said with a sense of purpose. "I am building a great cathedral. One day, people will walk into this sacred space, and their hearts will be lifted toward the heavens. I am building a house of worship that will stand for 1,000 years." All three men were doing the exact same physical task. The difference was not in their work, it was in their vision. The first man saw only the toil. The second saw only the job. The third man saw the purpose. He connected his small, repetitive, and difficult action to a vast, meaningful, and transcendent goal. He was not just cutting stones, he was building a cathedral. This is the invitation for all of us, to find the cathedral in our daily work. You can do this by consciously tracing the lines of connection that flow from your job into the wider world. This is the practice of seeing our profound interdependence. No job exists in a vacuum. If you are an accountant, you are not just managing spreadsheets. You are creating financial clarity and stability that allows a company to grow and to employ hundreds of other people. You are building a cathedral of order. If you are a janitor, you are not just mopping floors. You are creating a clean, healthy, and dignified environment where people can learn, heal, or do their best work. You are building a cathedral of well-being. If you are a software engineer, you are not just writing code. You are building tools that connect people, that solve problems, that bring information and art to the world. You are building a cathedral of connection. Ask yourself, who is helped by my work? What good is made possible because my job gets done? If you follow the thread far enough, you will find that your effort, no matter how small it may seem, is a vital link in the vast, intricate web of human society. Seeing this interconnectedness can infuse even the most mundane task with a sense of dignity and purpose. Your work becomes a form of karma yoga, the path of selfless action, where the work itself is a meditation. You learn to bring your full, mindful attention to the task at hand, doing it to the best of your ability, not just for the paycheck, but as an offering, as a contribution to the whole. Finding a job that you are passionate about is a wonderful aspiration. But finding passion, meaning, and gratitude in the job you currently have is a transformative skill that is available to you right now. It is the practice of looking past the stone you are cutting and seeing the cathedral you are helping to build. Having discovered how to find meaning and substance in the world of our daily actions, we now turn to a more subtle and paradoxical practice. We will explore the wisdom of being grateful not just for the tasks, the people, the objects, but for the nothingness that holds it all together. We will learn to appreciate the profound and creative value of emptiness. Our journey of gratitude has taken us far and wide. We have learned to appreciate the tangible and the intangibler breath, our bodies, our work, our relationships, and even our challenges. We have focused our attention on the something of our lives, but now our practice invites us to take a more subtle, paradoxical, and profound turn. It asks us to cultivate gratitude not just for the substance of our world, but for the space that holds it. It invites us to appreciate the profound, creative power of what we might call nothingness. In the Buddhist tradition, this concept is known as sunyata, or emptiness. This word, emptiness, can be frightening. In the English language, it carries connotations of a bleak, meaningless void, a cold and desolate nihilism. It is essential, right from the start, to understand that this is not at all what sunyata means. Buddhist emptiness is not a lack, it is a limitless potential. It is not a void, it is the womb from which all things are born. Sunyata means that things are empty of a separate, solid, independent self. It means that nothing exists on its own, isolated from everything else. Everything is radically interconnected, a temporary manifestation of countless causes and conditions. Consider a simple wooden chair. We see it as a solid, separate thing, a chair. But sunyata invites us to look deeper. The chair is empty of being a chair all by itself. Its existence is dependent on the tree from which the wood came. The tree was dependent on the sun, the soil, and the rain. The chair is dependent on the logger who cut the tree and the carpenter who shaped the wood. The carpenter was dependent on their parents, their teachers, the food they ate, and the air they breathed. The chair is also dependent on the existence of the idea of a chair in the human mind. If you take away the sun, the forest, the carpenter, and the idea, the chair vanishes. It has no separate inherent existence. In this way, the chair is empty of a solid self, but it is full of the entire universe. Emptiness, then, is the truth of our profound interconnection. It is the recognition that nothing stands alone. Once we begin to grasp this, we can start to see the beauty and utility of emptiness in our everyday lives. The ancient Chinese text, the Tao Te Ching, expresses this with unparalleled poetic clarity. It asks us to consider a wheel. We see the 30 spokes, the wooden rim, but what makes the wheel useful? The text says, 30 spokes share the wheel's hub. It is the center hole that makes it useful. The empty space in the middle is what allows the axle to be inserted, what allows the entire cart to move. All the something of the wheel is organized around a functional, essential nothing. The text continues, shape clay into a vessel. It is the space within that makes it useful. Think of your favorite coffee mug. You admire the color of its glaze, the feel of its handle, the solid clay it's made from. But the entire purpose of the mug, its very mugness, resides in the empty space it contains. Without that emptiness, it could hold nothing. You cannot drink the clay. You drink from the emptiness. We can feel gratitude for the solid form, but we can also feel a deep gratitude for the emptiness that gives it purpose. Finally, the Tao Te Ching says, "Cut out doors and windows for a room. It is the holes which make it useful." When we build a house, we labor over the walls, the floors, the roof. We value the substance. But we do not live inside the walls. We live in the empty space between them. The emptiness of a doorway is what allows us to enter. The emptiness of a window is what allows light and air to come in. The room is useful not because of what is there, but because of what is not. This principle is everywhere, once we learn to look for it. Consider a piece of music. A beautiful melody is not just a sequence of notes. It is a delicate dance between sound and silence. The empty spaces between the notes, the pauses, the rests are what create rhythm, what build tension, what allow the melody to breathe and to touch our hearts. Without the silence, music would just be a wall of unbearable noise. We can be grateful for the silence that makes the music meaningful. The same is true for conversation. A truly deep and connecting conversation is not just about the words that are spoken. It is about the empty space of listening, the receptive silence into which the words can land and be truly heard. When we give someone the gift of our silent, focused attention, we are offering them a sacred emptiness, a space to be themselves. Look up at the sky. We are often captivated by the things, the dramatic clouds, the brilliant sun, the distant moon, but we can also learn to appreciate the vast, boundless, empty blue sky that holds them all. The sky allows the clouds to form, to drift, and to dissolve without judgment. It is the perfect metaphor for our own awareness, spacious, accepting emptiness that can hold all the passing thoughts, feelings, and sensations of our lives without being defined by them. In our culture of hyper-productivity, we have come to fear empty time. An unscheduled afternoon, a moment with nothing to do, can feel like a source of anxiety, a waste. But this emptiness is the soil for creativity, insight, and rejuvenation. It is in the quiet, empty moments that new ideas can sprout. It is in the space between our frantic activities that we can finally hear the quiet whisper of our own hearts. We can cultivate gratitude for these moments of stillness, for the gift of unstructured, empty time. Finally, this understanding of emptiness brings a profound sense of freedom. When we realize that we too are empty of a fixed, solid, permanent self, it is incredibly liberating. It means we are not defined by our past. We are not a static object, but a flowing process. Our personality, our beliefs, our very sense of self are not set in stone. They are constantly changing, constantly evolving, shaped by our experiences and our choices. To be grateful for this emptiness is to be grateful for our own limitless potential to grow, to heal, and to change. We don't have to carry the heavy burden of being a something. We can relax into the freedom of being a process, a dance, a flowing river. Emptiness, then, is not a bleak void to be feared. It is the space that allows for movement, the silence that allows for music, the stillness that allows for peace, and the interconnectedness that allows for life itself. By learning to be grateful for the nothing that we so often overlook, our vision of the world becomes infinitely more deep, more nuanced, and more whole. We learn to appreciate not just the dancer, but the space in which the dance unfolds. Having explored the profound and subtle gratitude for emptiness, for the very fabric of potential itself, we now bring this spacious and non-attached awareness back to Earth. We will apply it to one of the most solid, charged, and challenging areas of human life, an area where feelings of lack and craving are often at their strongest. Our relationship with Having journeyed to the sublime and subtle wisdom of emptiness. We now bring the spacious awareness we have cultivated back to the most solid and charged territory of our human lives. We turn our attention to a subject that, for many, is the primary source of anxiety, conflict, and the feeling of not enough. We turn to our relationship with money. This is where our practice moves from the philosophical to the intensely practical. For in our relationship with money, all of our deepest fears about survival, status, and self-worth come to the surface. Let us begin by acknowledging the reality of financial stress. For a person struggling to pay their rent or put food on the table, the fear and anxiety are real and valid. This practice is not a replacement for responsible financial planning, nor does it deny the existence of systemic economic challenges. Rather, it is a tool for healing our internal relationship with money, for dissolving the extra layers of mental suffering, the greed, the shame, the constant worry that we add on top of our actual financial circumstances. The goal is to find a sense of inner prosperity and peace, regardless of the number on our bank statement. The first step is to deconstruct the myth of money itself. We have been conditioned to see money as a measure of our worth, a source of power, and an end in itself. We project onto these pieces of paper and digital numbers our deepest hopes for happiness and our deepest fears of failure. But in reality, money is neutral. It is simply a tool, a socially agreed upon system for exchanging energy, time, goods, and services. Think of it like electricity. Electricity is not inherently good or evil. It can be used to light a hospital and save a life, or it can be used to power a weapon. The energy itself is neutral. Its effect is determined by the intention and wisdom with which it is used. Money is the same. It is a current of energy that flows through society. It is our mindset of clinging, aversion, fear, and craving that transforms this neutral tool into a source of suffering. The practice of gratitude is the most direct way to change this mindset. It shifts us from a state of chronic financial anxiety, which is always focused on what we lack or what we might lose in the future, to a state of appreciation for what we have in the present moment. This practice can begin no matter how dire your circumstances seem. If you have only $1 in your pocket, the anxious mind fixates on all the things that dollar cannot buy. The grateful mind can hold that single dollar and feel genuine appreciation for the piece of fruit or the cup of coffee it can buy. If you have only a few coins, you can be grateful that they allow you to use public transport or make a phone call. The practice is about deliberately turning your attention away from the vast ocean of what you don't have and focusing on the tangible reality of what you do, however small. This act, repeated over time, begins to erode the powerful mental habit of feeling poor. Let us imagine two people. The first, we will call Alex. Alex has a good job and a respectable amount of savings in the bank. However, Alex operates from a deep-seated scarcity mindset. He obsessively checks his bank account, not with a feeling of security, but with a fear of the balance decreasing. He constantly compares his financial situation to that of his wealthier friends and feels inadequate. He worries incessantly about the future, about unexpected expenses, about the stock market. Though he is financially stable, he feels impoverished. His relationship with money is one of constant, low-grade anxiety and fearful clinging. The second person, whom we'll call Ben, has far less money than Alex. He lives paycheck to paycheck, but Ben has been cultivating a practice of gratitude. When he receives his paycheck, he takes a moment to pause. He looks at the amount and feels a sincere wave of gratitude for the security it will provide for the coming weeks. He is grateful for his labor and for the company that paid him. When he goes to the supermarket, he doesn't just mindlessly purchase groceries. As he pays, he feels a sense of thankfulness for the abundance of food available and for his ability to provide for himself. When he pays his rent, he feels a moment of gratitude for the safe, warm home he is able to live in. Ben sees money not as a possession to be hoarded, but as a flow of energy that allows him to participate in the web of life. Though he has less than Alex, he feels prosperous. His relationship with money is one of conscious, appreciative engagement. Who is the richer of the two? This practice of grateful exchange is something we can all cultivate. It has two parts. The first is gratitude upon receiving. When money comes to you, whether it's a salary, a gift, or even finding a coin on the street, take a moment to acknowledge it. See it as an inflow of energy, a symbol of your connection to the world's economy. Be thankful for the source it came from and for the good it will allow you to do. This replaces an unconscious act of deposit with a conscious moment of appreciation. The second part is even more transformative: gratitude upon spending. For most of us, paying for something is associated with a subtle pang of pain, a feeling of loss. We can radically shift this experience. When you pay your electricity bill, instead of feeling the pain of the money leaving your account, feel a moment of gratitude for the incredible gift of electricity. Thank it for the light that allows you to read at night, the warmth it provides in winter, the power that connects you to the world through your devices. When you buy a book, be grateful not just for the book, but for the author, the publisher, the printers, the truck driver who delivered it. You are not losing money. You are joyfully exchanging it for something of immense value. This transforms every single financial transaction from a moment of depletion into a moment of positive, appreciative connection. This also connects to our understanding of emptiness, or sunyata. Money is a perfect example of this principle. A dollar bill is just a piece of patterned paper. It has no value in and of itself. It is empty of inherent worth. Its power comes entirely from the collective trust and shared agreement of millions of people. It is a symbol of our complete and total interdependence on one another. Seeing money in this light helps to demystify it. It is not a god to be worshipped or a demon to be feared. It is a human-made tool, imbued with the power of our collective consciousness. Healing our relationship with money is not about mastering the stock market. It is about mastering our own minds. It is about the internal shift from a state of fear, scarcity, and craving to one of gratitude, abundance, and conscious flow. By appreciating every dollar we have, by being thankful for the security it provides, and by transforming every payment into an act of grateful exchange, we liberate ourselves from one of the greatest sources of modern suffering. We discover that true wealth is not about how much we have, but about how much we appreciate what we have. Having now learned to apply this profound wisdom to some of the most challenging areas of our lives, from our work to our finances, the question becomes, how do we ensure this is not just a temporary insight but a lasting transformation? The key is consistency. We must now explore how to build a formal daily practice that creates a stable temple of gratitude within our own minds. We have traveled through the vast inner landscape of our lives, learning to apply the lens of gratitude to our work, our finances, our relationships, and even our most difficult challenges. We have seen how this simple shift in perception can bring peace and meaning to nearly every aspect of our experience. An insight, however, is like a flash of lightning. It illuminates the landscape for a moment, but it can quickly fade, leaving us in the dark once more. For this illumination to become a steady, guiding light, it must be nurtured. A momentary insight must be transformed into an enduring habit. The question now becomes intensely practical. How do we do this? How do we build a lasting temple of gratitude in the mind, a sanctuary we can return to day after day? The foundation of this inner temple is built not with grand, heroic efforts, but with small, consistent, daily practices. Think of it like physical exercise. You would not expect to become strong by going to the gym for 10 hours on one day and then not returning for a month. Strength is built through regular, consistent effort over time. The same is true for our minds. The key principle is consistency over perfection. It is far better to engage in a heartfelt, 5-minute practice every day than to attempt a perfect, hour-long ritual once a week, or only when you feel inspired. It is in the gentle, daily repetition that the real transformation occurs. To help you build this consistency, here is a menu of simple, powerful practices. There is no single right way. The best practice is the one that resonates with you, the one you will actually do. I invite you to experiment with these tools and find which ones best suit your temperament and your life. First, there is the classic and highly effective practice of keeping a gratitude journal. Find a simple notebook, one that feels good to hold. Each day, perhaps before you go to sleep or just as you wake up, set aside a few minutes. The instruction is to write down 3 to 5 specific things from the last 24 hours for which you are grateful. The key here is specificity. Instead of writing a general word like family, try to recall a specific moment. For example, I am grateful for the way my daughter laughed at my bad joke this evening. Instead of my health, write, I am grateful for the strength in my legs that allowed me to take a walk today. After you write down each item, do not rush to the next. Pause. Close your eyes for just a few seconds and relive that moment. Feel the feeling of that laughter, the feeling of that strength. The purpose of the journal is not to create a list. It is to reactivate the feeling of gratitude in your body and heart. A second, more tactile practice is the gratitude jar. Find any simple glass jar or box, cut up small slips of paper and keep them nearby with a pen. Throughout your day, when you experience a moment of grace, a feeling of thankfulness, or notice something beautiful, take 30 seconds to write it down on a slip of paper, fold it, and place it in the jar. Grateful for the warm sun on my face during my lunch break. Grateful for the stranger who held the door for me. Grateful for the taste of my morning coffee. This physical act of writing and depositing the memory helps to solidify it in your mind. Over weeks and months, you will see the jar begin to fill. It becomes a visible, tangible testament to the abundance of good in your life. Then, on a difficult day, when you feel like the world is against you, you can pour out the contents of the jar and read these small, forgotten moments of goodness, reminding yourself of the rich reality of your life. A third tool, one you can carry with you, is a gratitude rock or token. Find a small, smooth stone, a crystal, or any small object that fits comfortably in your pocket. Hold it in your hand and infuse it with the intention of being a reminder for gratitude. Then, place it in your pocket. As you go about your day, every time your hand touches the rock, let it be a silent, gentle prompt. A prompt to pause, take one conscious breath, and find one thing in your immediate environment or your current situation to be grateful for. It could be the chair you're sitting on, the technology that allows you to work, or simply the fact that you are alive and breathing. This practice elegantly weaves moments of mindful appreciation into the fabric of your ordinary day, linking a physical sensation to a mental habit. Finally, for those who wish to go deeper, there is the practice of a formal gratitude meditation. Find a quiet, comfortable place to sit. Begin by bringing your awareness to your breath, allowing your mind and body to settle. Then, intentionally bring to mind a person for whom you feel immense gratitude. Visualize their face clearly. Recall their specific qualities, their kindness, their humor, their strength. Remember a time they helped you or a moment of joy you shared. As you hold them in your mind, let the genuine feeling of appreciation for this person well up in your heart. Let it fill your entire body with a warm, glowing sensation. Simply rest in that feeling for a few minutes. Then, you can gently release that image and move on to another object of your gratitude, a place in nature, a skill you possess, a simple object in your home. This is a direct and powerful way to train the gratitude muscle and to steep your entire being in a state of grace. It is natural that on some days, these practices will feel easy and joyful, and on other days, they will feel difficult and forced. This is where we must remember the parable of the dripping water. A person stands before a vast, empty clay pot, wanting to fill it. Their only source of water is a tiny crack in a rock far above, from which a single drop of water falls every few seconds. At first, the task seems impossible. The first 100 drops barely wet the bottom of the pot. Weeks pass, and the water level is still barely visible. It would be easy to become discouraged, to believe the effort is futile and give up. But the person trusts the process. They know that each drop, however small and insignificant it seems on its own, contributes to the whole. And so they wait patiently, allowing the drops to fall, one by one. Over time, the drops become a puddle. The puddle becomes a pool, and eventually, one day, the pot is overflowing. Each small, conscious act of gratitude is one of these drops. A single entry in a journal, one slip of paper in a jar, one moment of thanks prompted by a rock in your pocket by itself. It may seem like nothing, but through the relentless, gentle power of consistency, these drops accumulate. They slowly, surely, fill the vessel of our heart until it is overflowing with a deep and unshakable sense of peace, contentment, and joy. So, choose a practice that calls to you. Start small, be patient, and above all, be kind to yourself. There is no right or wrong way. The only goal is to consistently create the space for gratitude to arise. You are building an inner temple, a sanctuary of the mind. As you consistently tend to this sacred space, something remarkable happens. The peace and contentment you cultivate do not remain confined within you. They begin to radiate outward, subtly and powerfully changing how you interact with the world. Your personal practice of gratitude now becomes a quiet but profound revolutionary act. As we consistently tend to the inner temple of the heart, building its foundation with daily moments of appreciation, a profound shift occurs. The practice ceases to be merely a personal wellness tool. The peace we cultivate is not a quiet, private treasure to be hoarded. It begins to seep out, to radiate, to influence the very atmosphere around us. Our personal practice of gratitude, done in the silence of our own minds, becomes a quiet but powerful revolutionary act. It is a gentle, peaceful, yet unwavering rebellion against the dominant culture of our time. To understand this revolution, we must first clearly identify the regime we are rebelling against. We live within a vast, pervasive, and often invisible architecture of dissatisfaction. Its pillars are consumerism, advertising, and the great comparison machine of social media. The engine of our modern economy runs on manufactured discontent. The primary function of most advertising is not to inform, but to make you feel, on a subtle level, that you are lacking. It is designed to create a problem. Your skin isn't smooth enough, your car isn't new enough, your life isn't exciting enough, so that it can sell you the solution. It is the business of generating thirst. Social media, in turn, provides the perfect ecosystem for this thirst to flourish, constantly tempting us to compare our real, unedited, behind-the-scenes lives with the perfectly curated, filtered highlight reels of others. We are conditioned from birth to believe that happiness is something external, a product to be bought, a status to be earned, a destination to be reached. It is a frantic, exhausting, and endless pursuit of more. The practice of gratitude is a direct and radical dissent against this entire system. Every time you feel a moment of genuine, heartfelt appreciation for what you already have, you are peacefully resisting. A heart that is full of thanks for the simple, functional phone in its hand is immune to the seductive whisper that it needs the latest model. A mind that is content with a simple, home-cooked meal is not so easily swayed by the promise of happiness in a fancy restaurant. A person who is truly grateful for their own life, with all its unique beauty and challenges, is liberated from the prison of comparing it to others. A grateful heart is the worst possible customer for the industry of dissatisfaction. It is a quiet but firm, "No, thank you. I already have enough." This is an act of profound economic and mental rebellion. This inner revolution has profound outer consequences, particularly for the health of our planet. The endless thirst of consumer culture is directly responsible for the overconsumption of resources, the generation of waste, and the degradation of our natural world. We are encouraged to buy, discard, and buy again in a relentless cycle. Gratitude is a powerful ecological practice because it is the antidote to this cycle. When you truly feel that you have enough, you naturally begin to want less. You start to cherish the things you own, to take care of them, to repair them instead of replacing them. You consume more consciously, not out of a sense of guilt or grim obligation, but as a joyful and natural expression of a contented mind. When you are grateful for the simple gift of clean water, you are less likely to waste it. When you are grateful for the beauty of a forest, you are more likely to support its preservation. By healing our own inner sense of lack, we begin to heal our relationship with the earth. The revolutionary power of gratitude also transforms our social world. Anxious, craving, and dissatisfied people tend to radiate that energy. They carry with them an aura of tension, competition, and judgment. A person who is practicing gratitude, on the other hand, cultivates an inner state of peace and sufficiency. This is not something they have to talk about. It is something that can be felt by others. They become a calming, non-reactive presence in their families, their workplaces, and their communities. Their contentment is not threatening, it is inviting. Their peace can be contagious. By taking responsibility for our own inner state, by diligently cultivating our own garden of gratitude, we offer an unspoken gift of peace to everyone we interact with. Imagine a neglected vacant lot in a city neighborhood. It is filled with weeds and trash, a small patch of urban blight that everyone ignores. It is a symbol of disconnection. Then, one person, inspired by their practice, decides to act. They don't try to change the whole neighborhood. They simply start with gratitude for the small patch of earth beneath their feet. They clear one tiny corner of the lot and plant a few tomato seeds. A neighbor who usually rushes past sees this small act of care and feels a spark of connection. They offer to help pull some weeds. Another person sees them working and brings them a bottle of water. Someone else remembers they have some flower seeds they can share. Slowly, through these small, interconnected acts of generosity, born from a single act of gratitude, a transformation occurs. The ugly lot becomes a vibrant community garden. People who were once strangers now know each other by name. They work the earth together, share their produce, and watch out for each other's children. The garden has not only transformed a physical space from blight to beauty, it has transformed the social space from one of isolation and apathy to one of connection, collaboration, and mutual support. This is a gratitude revolution in miniature. This is the power we hold within us. To practice gratitude is to challenge the dominant and toxic cultural narrative that happiness is something that must be chased and acquired. It is a declaration of inner sovereignty. It is the act of taking back the power to define our own well-being from the external forces that profit from our misery. It is to insist, quietly and powerfully, that peace can be found right here, in the midst of our imperfect lives. Joy is not a destination, it is a way of seeing. Therefore, your simple, private, daily practice is far more than a self-help technique. It is a vote. Every time you choose appreciation over craving, you are casting a vote for a different kind of world. You are voting for contentment over consumerism, for connection over comparison, for sustainability over endless depletion. You are tending to your own small garden, and in doing so, you are planting the seeds of a kinder, saner, and more peaceful world for all of us. To see our personal practice in this revolutionary light can be deeply inspiring, but we must be realistic. This path is not always easy. There will be days when this revolutionary spirit feels distant, when our hearts feel closed, and when the well of gratitude feels completely dry. How do we navigate these inevitable dark nights of the soul? What do we do when gratitude is nowhere to be found? We have seen how our personal practice of gratitude can become a quiet but revolutionary act, a force for positive change in our own lives and in the world. This is an inspiring vision, and it is a true one. But we must also be profoundly honest. We are human, and the path of the heart is not a straight, upward line. There will be days when this revolutionary spirit feels a million miles away. There will be days when the mind is dark, when the heart is heavy and closed, and when the well of gratitude feels utterly and completely dry. You will look for something to be thankful for, and you will find nothing. These moments are not a sign that your practice has failed or that you have lost your way. They are an inevitable, essential, and deeply important part of the journey. To experience these dark nights of the soul is to be given an opportunity to cultivate a deeper, more resilient, and more compassionate wisdom. So, what do we do when gratitude is nowhere to be found? The first and most common mistake is to try and force it. We start to scold ourselves. I should be grateful. I have so much to be thankful for. What is wrong with me? This inner critic adds a second heavy layer of suffering on top of our initial pain. We now have our original sadness or anger, plus a new helping of guilt and shame for feeling it. This is a path to misery. The first and most compassionate step on a difficult day is to give yourself complete and unconditional permission to feel exactly what you are feeling. If you are sad, let yourself be sad. If you are angry, acknowledge the anger. Honesty must always be the foundation. You cannot build a temple of gratitude on a foundation of self-deception. Once you have given yourself this permission, you can introduce a new and powerful perspective. It is the metaphor of the sky and the clouds. Think of your awareness, your core consciousness, as the vast, open, luminous blue sky. It is always there, boundless and fundamentally peaceful. Now, think of your thoughts, your moods, and your emotions as the weather. Sometimes, the weather is beautiful clear sun, gentle breezes, puffy white clouds. These are our moments of joy, peace, and gratitude. At other times, the weather is violent and stormy dark thunderclouds, driving rain, flashes of lightning. These are our moments of anger, grief, anxiety, and despair. Now, here is the crucial insight. No matter how violent the storm, it never, ever harms the sky. The sky contains the storm, but it is not the storm. The darkest clouds do not stain the blue of the sky. The fiercest lightning does not scar it. The weather is a temporary event that passes through the sky. The sky itself remains untouched, unchanged, and ever-present. The great error of our lives is that we mistake ourselves for the weather. When we are angry, we say, "I am angry." When we are sad, we say, "I am sad." We identify completely with the passing cloud. The practice on these difficult days is to gently shift your identification from the cloud to the sky. It is the subtle but life-altering shift from saying, "I am sad" to, "I am aware that a feeling of sadness is here." This is where a new, more subtle form of gratitude can arise, a kind of meta-gratitude. When you are caught in a storm of despair and cannot feel grateful for anything in your life, you can try this. You can say to yourself, "I am not grateful for this feeling of despair. It is painful. But I can be grateful for the awareness that knows despair is here. I can be grateful for the sky of my mind that is vast enough to hold even this storm without breaking." This is a profound shift. You are no longer demanding that the weather change. You are becoming grateful for the sky that holds the weather. This practice creates a tiny sliver of space between you and your painful emotion. In that space, there is peace. In that space, there is freedom. Sometimes, even this meta practice may feel too complex. When the mind is in a state of total chaos, the wisest action is to return to the absolute, undeniable ground of your being. You lower the bar for your practice all the way to the floor. Forget trying to be grateful for anything. Simply bring your awareness to the physical sensation of your breath entering and leaving your body. Don't try to change it, just feel it. The simple, raw, physical data of air moving. This is an anchor in the storm. Or, feel your feet flat on the floor. Feel the solidness of the ground beneath you, the gentle pull of gravity holding you to the earth. This act of grounding yourself in simple physical sensation can pull your awareness out of the swirling vortex of painful thoughts and emotions and back into the safety of the present moment. These are not practices of gratitude, but they are the practices that create the stable ground upon which gratitude can eventually, once again, be built. There's a Zen story of two monks on a walking pilgrimage. A sudden cold rain began to pour down, soaking them to the bone. The younger monk became miserable, complaining bitterly with every step. "This is awful," he said. "My robes are ruined, I'm freezing cold, and now we will never make it to the next temple before nightfall. Everything is ruined." The older monk walked beside him in silence, a faint, serene smile on his face. This infuriated the younger monk. "How can you possibly be smiling at a time like this?" he demanded. The older monk looked at the falling rain, then at the wet fields beside the road. "You see a personal disaster," he said gently. "I see the rice paddies we passed this morning, which were dry and cracking, finally receiving the water they so desperately need. I am thinking of the farmers and their families, and I am grateful that they will have a good harvest this year. The rain is not good or bad. It is simply rain. Whether it is a blessing or a curse depends entirely on the size of our perspective. On our most difficult days, when we can find nothing in our own small, personal world to be grateful for, we can sometimes try to expand our perspective, like the older monk. We can try to find gratitude for a larger truth that exists outside of our own temporary pain. These difficult days are not an interruption of your practice. They are the practice. They are the moments that truly test and deepen our capacity for wisdom and compassion. The goal is not to create a life where the sky is always clear. The goal is to become so intimate with the nature of the sky that we are no longer afraid of the weather. Be gentle with yourself. Be patient. Trust that the sun is always shining, even when it is hidden by the darkest clouds. Having learned how to navigate even these difficult days with grace, we are now ready to weave all of these threads together. We can move from doing gratitude as a specific exercise to being gratitude as a way of life. We are now ready to furnish the inner temple we have built and to transform it into a true and lasting treasure house of the mind. Our journey has been a long and winding one. We began in the high-rise apartment of the modern soul, feeling the quiet ache of a thirst that could not be quenched. We diagnosed this thirst as tanha, the engine of dissatisfaction. We then redefined our destination, turning away from the mirage of external wealth and toward the cool, clear spring of inner prosperity. We learned to use the key of gratitude, first to open the door of our own breath, and then the gates of our senses. We found the courage to be grateful for the mud of our challenges, the wisdom of our own bodies, and the hidden goodness in our relationships. We transformed our relationship with work, money, and even with the great cosmic law of impermanence itself. We have built, day by day, a temple of gratitude in our minds. Now we arrive at the final stage of our journey. This is the moment when the practice dissolves and becomes something else entirely. It is the shift from doing gratitude to being gratitude. Imagine a musician learning to play the violin. In the beginning, the process is mechanical and laborious. The student must consciously think about every single detail: how to hold the bow, where to place the fingers, how to draw a smooth, even note. They practice scales, they do exercises, they follow the rules. This is the doing phase. It is essential, but it is not yet music. But after thousands of hours of consistent, mindful practice, a transformation occurs. The student no longer has to think about the mechanics. The instrument has become an extension of their own body. The distinction between the musician and the music begins to blur. They are no longer doing the playing. They are simply being the music. It flows from them, a natural, effortless expression of their heart. This is what happens when our practice of gratitude matures. The gratitude journal, the daily lists, the mental reminders, these are our scales and exercises. They are the essential, structured doing that builds the new neural pathways. But if we are consistent, if we are sincere, A moment comes when we no longer need to try so hard. Gratitude ceases to be an item on our to-do list and becomes the very lens through which we see the world. It becomes the natural default setting of the heart. This is the treasure of the mind. Let us return to John, the man we met in the beginning, standing by his window, looking out at the glittering city, feeling a profound sense of emptiness. Outwardly, perhaps his life has not changed much. He still lives in the same apartment, still has a demanding job. But inwardly, he is a different human being. He wakes up in the morning, and the first thought that enters his mind is not the anxious checklist of the day's tasks, but a quiet, simple thank you for the gift of another day, for the light filtering through his window. He goes to the kitchen to make coffee. He is no longer just performing a routine. As he grinds the beans, he is aware of the rich aroma, and he feels a flicker of gratitude for this simple pleasure. As he pours the hot water, he feels thankful for the clean, safe water that flows so effortlessly from his tap, a luxury unknown to billions. He drinks his coffee not while scrolling through his phone in a state of distraction, but while looking out his window. He sees the same city he saw before, but now he does not see it as a symbol of his own success or failure. He sees a vast, intricate tapestry of human life. He thinks of the millions of people waking up, making breakfast, getting their children ready for school, each one with their own hopes and fears and dreams. He feels a sense of connection, not isolation. On his way to work, he used to be lost in a fog of stress, annoyed by traffic and crowds. Now, he sees the face of the street vendor and silently wishes him well. He notices the small, determined weed growing in a crack in the sidewalk and feels a sense of wonder at its resilience. At the office, he is no longer just enduring the day. He sees his work not as a burden, but as his specific way of participating in the great, interconnected web of society. He feels grateful for the chance to use his mind to solve problems, and he looks for the good in his colleagues, offering a word of encouragement instead of a silent judgment. The prosperity he was so desperately chasing in the external world of promotions and acquisitions was a ghost. He has now found the real treasure. He has discovered that true wealth is not measured in dollars, but in moments of appreciative awareness. He has learned that prosperity is the richness of a quiet mind, the abundance of a compassionate heart, and the simple, profound joy of being fully present for your own life. This state of contentment, this deep feeling of enough, is not a passive or complacent state. It is not about giving up on your goals. It is the exact opposite. It is the most powerful and stable foundation from which to live and act in the world. When you are no longer frantically chasing happiness, you are free to create it. When your actions are no longer fueled by a desperate need to prove your worth, they can arise from a place of genuine passion, clear-eyed wisdom, and authentic service to others. The great spiritual journey is not about becoming someone new. It is about unbecoming everything that isn't you, so you can be who you were meant to be in the first place. It is the process of peeling away the layers of conditioning, fear, and false belief, until you arrive at the luminous, peaceful, and naturally grateful core of your own being. The life you have been given, with all its imperfections, is not a problem to be solved. It is a gift to be opened. And the key to unlocking that gift, to revealing the treasure hidden within it, has been in your hand all along. That key is gratitude. This is the work of a lifetime, but it is also the work of a single moment, this moment. The treasure house is not at the end of some long and arduous path. The door is right in front of you. The key is in your hand. The treasure of a peaceful mind is waiting. We began this journey together in a place that may feel very familiar. A car, stopped in traffic, surrounded by the noise and the relentless demands of a world that never seems to sleep. We began with Sarah, but in her we saw ourselves. We saw the feeling of being stuck, of running on a wheel, chasing a version of happiness that always seemed just out of reach, leaving behind a quiet ache of dissatisfaction. We started with a diagnosis of our modern condition, a deep and subtle suffering, a fundamental unease. From there, we walked an ancient path. We did not turn away from this discomfort. Instead, we looked directly at it, with courage and with curiosity. We listened to the echo of the first noble truth, the truth of dukkha, not as a pessimistic decree, but as a compassionate acknowledgement of our reality. We traced the roots of this disquiet to their source, to the relentless grasping and pushing away of our own minds, the second truth of arising. And then, in the heart of that understanding, a light appeared. The third noble truth, the promise of cessation, the radical possibility that the fires of craving and aversion could be stilled, revealing a profound and unshakable peace. Finally, we were given a map, a practical, humane guide for living, the Eightfold Path, showing us how to walk from confusion to clarity. We journeyed inward, exploring the very nature of our experience. We saw how everything we hold dear, every joy, every sorrow, every thought is like a river, flowing and changing, never the same from one moment to the next. We questioned the very foundation of who we think we are, that solid, separate self, only to find a beautiful, interconnected dance of processes with no fixed dancer to be found. This was not a loss, but a liberation, a release from the heavy burden of defending and promoting a self that was only ever an idea. In its place, we discovered a vast, open space of interconnection where the line between self and other begins to dissolve in the light of compassion. We learned to sit, to breathe, to simply be present with what is. We learned that within us is the capacity for a kindness that can hold the entire world, and a compassion that is brave enough to sit with any pain. And so we arrive here, at the end of this shared time, but at the true beginning of our own practice. The ultimate message of this path is both simple and profound. Peace is not the absence of the storm. The traffic jams will still happen. The phones will still buzz. The challenges of life will continue to arise like waves on the ocean. Peace is not found by demanding the ocean be still. Peace is found by discovering the silent, unshakable depth of the ocean within you, which is never disturbed by the turmoil on the surface. It is not something you must build or acquire or earn. It is something you return to. It is your most fundamental nature, waiting patiently beneath the noise of the mind. This journey is not about becoming a better person or a new person, but about gently, compassionately, removing all the layers of who you are not, so you can rest in the truth of who you have always been. The path forward does not require a grand gesture. It does not require you to believe anything. It only invites you to begin, right here, right now, with the next conscious breath you take. That is where your freedom lies. It has been here all along,